Chapter 623. Check the shop on the other side. Zhou Yunke had already peeled off a pile of shells on the table. Tong Xuedao knew what this was. Although she was a little hesitant at first, ever since the fragrance wafted into her nose, she no longer had any thoughts. She quickly ate. The Zhou family did not say anything. They did not think so before, but now they realized that there seemed to be a lot of people, but too few cicadas. Aunt Ku had always despised it. Even though she had salivated because of the fragrance, she had never thought of eating it. However, now that she saw that everyone at the table was like the reincarnation of a hungry ghost and did not even have the time to speak, afraid that it would delay them from eating, she actually became suspicious. Was it really that delicious? She hesitated again and again. Seeing that everyone's heads were lowered, she finally couldn't help but secretly take one. Then, she turned around as if nothing had happened and looked at the black cicada. She closed her eyes and bit it. Hey! It's actually not bad. It doesn't feel disgusting at all. It smells good. Aunt Ku expressed that she could still accept this. After finishing the one in her mouth, she turned around and was about to take another one when she realized that it was empty. Both plates were empty. Were these people the reincarnations of hungry ghosts? Zhou leaned back in the chair in satisfaction and sighed. I didn't expect this cicada to be so delicious. Why didn't I notice it before? Zhou, why don't we catch another bag of cicadas tomorrow? Sure, Zhou agreed. Xiao Qingyuan glanced at them from the corner of his eye. Capture and fry them by yourselves. Zhou and Zhou were speechless. Wasn't this making things difficult for them? However, they did not dare to let Zhou Yundong cook for them, so they could only look at Tong Xuedao. The latter thought of the delicious food in her mouth and clicked her tongue. She nodded straightforwardly. Sure, no problem. Only then was Xiao Qingyuan satisfied. He asked about the situation at Tianhai Academy today. Everyone was very happy to know that Zhou Dajiang had passed Mountain Elder Chief assessment and could report to the academy tomorrow. Xiao Qingyuan was also progressing smoothly. The shop assistant called Laishi brought us to see 5 shops. I bought 2 that are quite close. One will be Gus, and the other will be a pharmacy in the future. Do you want to take a look tomorrow? Xiao Qingyuan wanted to buy 2 adjacent shops, but it was too difficult. He could only find 2 close ones. The pharmacy was not in a hurry. The county's pharmacy had just started on the track. It was not easy to buy medicinal herbs, especially when they had to find a shopkeeper who knew medicine. Therefore, they had to be steady and not be in a hurry. I'll go take a look. Zhou Yundong was still a little surprised. He did not expect it to be decided in a day. She turned to look at Zhou Dajiang. Father, is it okay for you to go to the academy tomorrow? Zhou Dajiang had just taken a sip of water when he almost choked as he heard this. He looked at his daughter with a complicated expression. Yundong, I'm not a child anymore. I'm already in my 30s. I can even go to the capital alone, let alone the academy. Zhou Yundong laughed dryly before realizing that Zhou Dajiang was not Madame Yang or Yunshu or Yunke. Then I'll go look at the shops tomorrow. Zhou Dajiang waved his hand. Go, go. Go do your work. Hence, the next day, Zhou Yundong, Xiao Qingyuan, Zheng Gang, and the others went to the shops. Zhou Dajiang and Shui Rong went to the academy, while the others went to the house they had bought yesterday to tidy up the courtyard. Chapter 624. Who are you? The shop that Xiao Qingyuan had bought was not in the center of the prefecture capital, but it was still a prosperous area. The road in front of the shop was very wide, and there were many people coming and going. The shop was a 2-story building with a small courtyard at the back. The courtyard was not big, but it was enough to accommodate people. Zhou Yundong walked around the shop and was very satisfied. Seeing this, Xiao Qingyuan couldn't help but laugh and say, this shop used to be a bookstore. The owner was a scholar who only read books. He wasn't good at managing the bookstore left behind by his father, so he handed it over to the original shopkeeper. Unfortunately, the shopkeeper was a greedy person. Not only did he sell inferior goods, but he also secretly embezzled a lot of money from the shop. Not long ago, a scholar did not receive the remuneration he deserved after copying books for the bookstore. He could not help but shout in the academy, allowing the owner to know about it. Only then did the owner start to investigate the shop. The result almost made him faint from anger. Not only did the shop suffer a huge loss, but it also owed a lot of foreign debt. He immediately sent the shopkeeper to the government and got back a portion of the money, but there was still a huge debt that he could not fill. Scholars cared about their reputation the most, especially since the bookstore owed many students money for their hard work. He had no choice but to sell the shop. Zhou Yundong sighed and sympathized with the scholar. However, she quickly threw it aside and began to think about how to renovate the shop in front of him. "Why don't we get Uncle Feng to come over?" Xiao Qingyuan suggested. "He has worked in the prefectural city before. He knows people here. We won't have to worry about not having any connections." Zhou Yundong's eyes lit up. Sure. She had a good impression of Feng Daneng. Uncle Feng was the one who helped renovate Gus previously. Now, Uncle Feng had a lot of work to do. He already had a mature workforce under him, but most of the work he took on was from the nearby villages. Occasionally, people from the town and county would look for him. But Zhou Yundong knew that Uncle Feng was also ambitious and naturally hoped to go further and higher. The renovation of the shop did not require many people. Uncle Feng only needed to bring 2 helpers. Tomorrow morning, I'll get a shoe to go back quickly and bring Uncle Feng over. Sure. Zhou Yundong thought that tonight, she would have to make a renovation plan according to the structure of this shop. Just as the two of them were chatting, a few voices suddenly came from outside. Zhou Yundong and Xiao Qingyuan looked at each other and walked into the shop. As soon as they came out, they saw a familiar middle-aged man striding in and glaring at them with an unfriendly expression. "It's you." Zhou Yundong was stunned for a moment. Then, she suddenly remembered. Wasn't this middle-aged man the person she saw at Jinxiu restaurant the day before yesterday who wanted to reserve a private room? According to the shop assistant Laishi, he was the steward of the Zhou family. Steward Zhou was furious. He looked at Zhou Yundong and the other two and sneered. "Did you buy this shop?" Zhou Yundong frowned. She had always been friendly to friendly people. She ignored people who seemed to have eyes on their heads. Therefore, after glancing at the middle-aged man, she turned back to her shop. On the other hand, Zhang Gang asked him coldly, "Who are you?" "Don't care who I am. Do you know that my master took a fancy to this shop first?" All right, he had previously fought over the private room with her and now, he was snatching the shop from her. Where did this bandit come from? His reach was getting longer and longer. Chapter 625. The person he found. Zhang Gang wondered if there was something wrong with this person's brain. If your master liked it first, why didn't he buy it? If you didn't buy it yourself, why are you blaming others for taking action? What kind of people are these? Seeing that they were silent, the middle-aged man became even angrier. Did you hear that? Our master took a fancy to this shop first. Our master only went back to consider for a day, and you intercepted him. Aren't you being too unreasonable? There has to be a first come, first served rule, right? Zhou Yundong had never heard of such a thing. She turned her head and sized up the middle-aged man. She smiled and said, "What a nice thing to say. What do you mean by going back to consider for a day? I'm afraid you wanted to lower the price, right? You clearly knew that the original owner of this shop was in a hurry to sell it, but you still dawdled and wanted to buy this shop at a low price. Are you blaming others for your bad intentions? Did he think everyone was a fool?" The middle-aged man's expression changed when he heard that. "In short, we took a fancy to this shop first. How much did you buy it for? Well, give it to you." Zhou Yundong regretted talking to him just now. What was there to talk about with a fool? Xiao Qingyuan stood in front of the middle-aged man with a cold expression. "Get out." You, before he could finish, he couldn't help but shrink his neck and look at Xiao Qingyuan in fear. In the end, the middle-aged man straightened his neck for a moment and took 2 steps back in fear. This person looked fierce. If he attacked, wouldn't he suffer? He snorted coldly and flicked his sleeves before leaving. When they reached the door, he pointed at them. "Just you wait." Without waiting for Xiao Qingyuan to look over, he quickly ran away. As soon as he left, Zheng Gang couldn't help but frown. Boss, will this person bring us trouble? There won't be any trouble. After all, we just came to the prefectural city. If the other party is rich, Zheng Gang was worried. He was used to being cautious. When doing business, he would not offend anyone, especially when he had just arrived at an unfamiliar place. But Jiyu Yundong did not seem to care, nor did Xiao Qingyuan. He sighed. Jiyu Yundong saw that he was still very worried, so she smiled and explained, Uncle Zheng, you don't have to worry too much. If this Zhou family's steward is rich and powerful and we can't offend him, when we went to Jinxiu restaurant 2 days ago, the shopkeeper and the waiter would have mentioned it. Moreover, the other party was the one who was arrogant and unreasonable first. If they did not beat up such a person, what should they do? Jiyu Yundong felt that if she showed weakness, the steward would definitely push his luck. Zheng Gang was stunned. It made sense. The three of them continued to look at the shop, but not long after, there was another commotion outside the door. Zheng Gang thought that the middle-aged man had returned, but he didn't expect that it wasn't. It was a few hooligans from the streets. They seemed to be collecting protection fees in this area. As soon as the hooligan leader entered, he looked at the three people opposite him and asked, if you want to open a shop here, you have to know the rules. What are the rules? Xiao Qingyuan took a step forward and narrowed his eyes as he sized them up. The hooligans were a little afraid of his cold face, but they still had some confidence because they had more people. This street is covered by us, so the shops along the street have to give us some protection money. It's not much. 100 taels a month. Zheng Gang sucked in a breath of cold air. You guys are robbing. Jiyu Yundong narrowed her eyes and looked at the middle-aged man hiding outside the shop. It was indeed the people he had called over. Chapter 626. Kicked off. Jiyu Yundong thought that this person would go back to his Zhou mansion to call for help. She did not expect him to have some brains. He was looking for the local hooligans to cause trouble here. At this moment, the middle-aged man was hiding at the entrance of the alley opposite. He said to the person beside him, "Well, go over and mediate when they get into a conflict later. It'll be much easier to buy their shop then." Is it useful? The person beside him looked like a servant. He was still a little worried. Steward Zhou snorted. Of course it's useful. Who would be willing to pay a protection fee of 100 taels a month? It's a pity that we came a step later. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had to give money to those local hooligans to help. Steward Zhou pursed his lips. Perhaps in this way, we can lower the price. After a pause, he asked, when will Master come? He should be here soon. Steward Zhou was a little anxious. We have to get it done before old Master comes. Coincidentally, the three people in the shop didn't seem to have a good temper. They would definitely quarrel soon. He would just wait. The atmosphere in the shop was indeed tense. Zheng Gang looked at the local hooligans and said, I've never heard of anyone on this street paying protection fees, let alone 100 taels a month. That's right. In the past, you didn't have to pay it. Now, you have to. What's wrong? Are you going to give it to us? If you don't blame us for being rude. Zheng Gang was furious. I'm not giving it to you. Why don't we see how rude you are? Jiyu Yundong retracted her gaze from Steward Zhou and glanced at the local hooligans. A local hooligan immediately glanced at her, and then his eyes lit up. His gaze became unrestrained. Yo, there's a little girl here. She's quite good-looking. Do you want to know how to be rude? Actually, it's simple. Why don't you come over and kiss me? Before he could finish speaking, the local hooligan felt a pain in his stomach. His entire body flew out like a kite with a broken string. Bang. The sound of the landing rang out. Not only was the local hooligan stunned, but the other gangsters were also stunned. The smile on their faces was still hanging as they froze. After a while, everyone turned around and looked at Xiao Qingyuan, who had attacked. They swallowed hard. Xiao Qingyuan glanced at them coldly. Who else wants to be rude? The local hooligans trembled and immediately took a few steps back. Steward Zhou and the servant were even more stunned. Just like that, the man was sent flying. What should we do? The servant was so nervous that his tongue was tied. That person seems to know martial arts. Even if we go over together, we won't be able to beat him. Those local hooligans won't be able to do anything either. Why don't we forget about that shop? Steward Zhou was also so frightened that he trembled. However, when he heard the servant's words, he slapped him. What nonsense are you talking about? That shop was chosen by Old Master. Can I just give it up? Looks like we have to rely on ourselves. You, quickly call our phone over. He's a guard of our residence. He's very skilled. He can definitely deal with that man. The servant nodded and immediately stood up. Unexpectedly, before he could take a step, he stopped again and pointed at a carriage not far away. There's no need to go. Our phone accompanied Old Master over. Steward Zhou suddenly turned his head, and his expression instantly changed. Chapter 627. Why are they here? What should we do now? The servant asked in a daze. Steward Zhou thought for a moment, gritted his teeth, and said, What else can we do? Tell Old Master directly. As he spoke, Steward Zhou hurriedly came out of the alley and stopped Old Master Zhou's carriage before it arrived at the shop. He apologized with a sad face. Old Master, I'm sorry. I couldn't do what you instructed. I'm guilty. The curtain of the carriage opened, and Old Master Zhou got out of the carriage. He frowned at him. What happened? Master, the shop you like has been bought by someone. Old Master Zhou kicked him. Useless thing. You can't even deal with a shop. Steward Zhou endured the kick, but he blamed it on Jiu Yundong and the others in his heart. Master, I had no choice. I had already negotiated the price with the original owner of the shop. Master Li was waiting for me to tell Master, so that he could transfer the ownership of the shop after I gave the money. I didn't expect, as he spoke, he sobbed. I didn't expect 3 people to suddenly come and insist on buying that shop. They even said that they would give eldest Li an additional 200 taels of silver. When I heard that, how could this be? We decided to buy this shop first. However, those 3 people were completely unreasonable. One of them was a man who had some skills and directly threw me out. I couldn't beat him, so this shop, Old Master Zhou's eyes widened. Outrageous, outrageous. There's actually such an unreasonable bandit. That's right. It's too much to buy something with force just because he has some martial arts. Old Master Zhou sneered. So what if he has martial arts? Our phone, go and meet him. Yes, Master. Our phone cupped his hands and walked towards the shop first. Only then did Old Master Zhou and Steward Zhou slowly follow behind. Steward Zhou revealed a smile and felt a little pleased. When our phone walked to the entrance of the shop, he happened to see the local hooligans retreating in a panic. One of them almost bumped into him. That person turned around and happened to recognize him. Wasn't this the Zhou family's guard? The local hooligans immediately did not retreat. With the Zhou family's guard here, wouldn't these people be crushed to death with one hand? Our phone was an orthodox martial arts practitioner. They could not defeat him even if they were combined. Therefore, the local hooligans quickly moved aside and let our phone walk in. Our phone saw Zheng Gang at first, and then Xiao Qingyuan. Then, his expression changed instantly. The third glance, he saw Jiu Yundong. Our phone suddenly took a step back. His pupils constricted and his body trembled uncontrollably. How could it be them? Jiu Yundong no longer remembered this person, but Xiao Qingyuan had a deep impression of him. Back then, the master of our Feng's family had almost caused his Yundong to fall off the horse. He really did not expect to see him again. What's the matter? Xiao Qingyuan narrowed his eyes and asked. Our Feng subconsciously shook his head and turned to look for his master. Old Master Zhou had already walked forward. Steward Zhou pointed at Xiao Qingyuan and the other 2 and said, Old Master, it's them. Old Master Zhou raised his eyes slightly and glanced at Zheng Gang, who was at the front. It's you who took a fancy to my shop and did not resort to tricks. Our Feng immediately tugged at his sleeve. Master, look over there. He pointed at Jiu Yundong's position in a low voice. Chapter 628. Long time no see. Zhu Dafu frowned and looked in the direction where our Feng was pointing. The next moment, His chubby body jumped up nimbly and he instantly took 2 steps back. He looked at the two of them with a trace of fear in his eyes. You, how could it be you? Why are you here? Oh, Zhou Yundong knew this person. After all, he was the person who gave her money. She took another look at Steward Zhou, who was following behind her, and immediately understood. So this Zhou mansion was that Zhou mansion. Old Master Zhou, it's been a long time. How have you been recently? Have you been earning a lot of money? Zhou Dafu hurriedly shook his head. It's not a lot. It's not a lot at all. Zhou Dafu's heart ached when she had extorted so much money from him last time. Now that he saw Zhou Yundong-one's cunning expression, he instantly had a bad feeling. If it's not a lot, how did you find so many local hooligans to cause trouble for our shop? Zhou Dafu was stunned. He looked at the group of people and a trace of confusion flashed across his face. However, when his gaze landed on Steward Zhou, he instantly understood. He glared at Steward Zhou fiercely and immediately said, "No, you've misunderstood. I don't even know these people." He really didn't know them. He felt wronged. Steward Zhou was completely stunned. What was going on? Did Old Master know these people? And they seemed to be very afraid. He looked at Ah Feng again. The latter did not even dare to take a step forward. Wait, where did these people come from? Steward Zhou felt a little uneasy. Zhou Yundong smiled. So you don't know him? I thought that Old Master Zhou had taken a fancy to this shop and deliberately found someone to sabotage it. They even asked us for 100 taels of silver a month for protection. When I heard this just now, I was so frightened that I trembled. I would be having nightmares at night. Please stop having nightmares. If you continue, I'll have nightmares later. The corners of Zhou Dafu's mouth twitched. He shook his head firmly. I really don't know them. Those people are simply outrageous. They don't do proper business all day long and specialize in extortion. Miss, don't worry. We're all acquaintances. I'll help you deal with these people. Zhou Yundong nodded. All right, then I'll have to trouble Old Master Zhou. It's no trouble. I'll take her away now. After saying that, he gave Ah Feng a look. Without waiting for Zhou Yundong to say anything, he quickly turned around and left in a hurry. Zhou Yundong looked at his back speechlessly. Why was he in such a hurry? She had not even mentioned the issue of compensation. However, Zhou Dafu's heart ached so much for the money that his legs almost ran away. The local hooligans were completely confused. When they heard Old Master Zhou's words, they wanted to refute, but when they met Ah Feng's warning gaze, they immediately did not dare to say anything. Was this Old Master Zhou's plan? Hence, after walking far away from the shop, the local hooligan leader, who had already recovered from the beating, asked, Old Master Zhou, what does this mean? Zhou Dafu glanced at them. These people were not worth his time at all. He directly handed them over to Ah Feng to deal with. He only turned around and looked at Steward Zhou. Then, he kicked him hard in the stomach, causing him to fall to the ground. You bastard, why don't you telling me the truth? Steward Zhou was shocked and quickly got up. His face was pale and he did not dare to have any other thoughts. He told him everything in detail. After hearing this, Zhou Dafu's expression turned even worse. He kicked him again. After Ah Feng sent the local hooligans away, Zhou Dafu said with a dark expression, Go and find out the background of this man and woman. Chapter 629, Different Reactions. Zhou Dafu did not expect to see Zhou Yundong and Xiao Qingyuan here. The last time they met was on the road from Yongning Prefecture to Wanqing Prefecture. At that time, he thought that they were from Wanqing Prefecture. He did not expect them to open a shop in Xuanhe Prefecture. At the thought that he was about to be extorted by the two of them again, Zhou Dafu felt extremely unhappy. He turned around and kicked Steward Zhou hard again. Take care of those local hooligans yourself. Also, I'll punish you with half a year's worth of salary. If there's a next time, I'll sell you off. This old servant doesn't dare. Steward Zhou laughed bitterly in his heart. He didn't dare to ask what was going on with those people. He only knew that he had kicked an iron plate. Not only did he not get anything good, but he also had to lose a large sum of money. Zhou Dafu looked up in the direction of the shop again and cursed his bad luck. He called our phone to turn around and return to the residence. When the few people in the shop saw that their backs had completely disappeared, they turned around and continued discussing. However, at the same time, after a few people watched the commotion outside the door, they turned around and returned to the shops next door. The one on the left was a shop that sold jewelry. When the shop assistant entered, he said to the shopkeeper, "The new owner next door seems to be surnamed Zhou. She's a young lady. I don't know her background, but she has a strong temper and doesn't look easy to provoke. One of the men is quite skilled. Even our Feng from the Zhou mansion is afraid of him. I guess he has suffered before." On the right was a ready-made clothing store. The shop assistant also told the shopkeeper what he had just seen. Even Zhou Dafu is afraid of the owner of the shop next door. I reckon that the girl surnamed Zhou has a strong backing. She doesn't take Zhou Dafu seriously at all. She's not afraid of the local hooligan either. She beat him up just like that. She's not afraid of others coming to take revenge. The shop opposite was a pastry shop. The shop assistant clicked his tongue when he entered. The boss is a girl. She came out to do business at such a young age. She's like a newborn calf that doesn't fear the tiger. Peace is the most important thing when doing business. She doesn't take it seriously at all. Either she has a strong backing or she's too naive. I think this shop won't be open for long. The managers of the three shops had different reactions. The left and right shops were still unsure of Jiu Yundong's background, but they were still neighbors in the future. It was better to be on good terms. Therefore, the two shopkeepers asked the waiter to send some cooling tea for the hot day. This was the first time Jiu Yundong had encountered such treatment, even though this was the third shop she had opened. After all, her first shop was in Fengkai County. The shop was originally one from the Dao family. Most of the shopkeepers in the surrounding shops were still afraid of the Dao family. In the beginning, they did not dare to interact with her openly. Her second shop was in Wanqing Prefecture. The shop was originally owned by the Xin family, but it was confiscated later on before it fell into his hands. The shopkeepers in the surrounding shops didn't dare to ask around for fear of getting into trouble. As a result, Jiu Yundong was stunned when she saw the two waiters coming in with friendly attitudes to greet her and deliver tea. Zhang Gang, on the other hand, accepted it politely and chatted with them happily. After they left, Zhang Gang said, "I just asked around." The two shop assistants said that Zhou Dafu hasn't been in the prefectural city for long and has a certain amount of wealth, but there's no need to be too afraid of him. He had a rich family background, but his foundation was not stable. The truly rich and powerful people in the Xuanhe prefecture probably did not take him seriously. Jiu Yundong nodded. "The shop has just opened. Brother Xiao and I will still stay in the prefectural city. We're not afraid of them finding trouble again. But shouldn't we hire an assistant first?" Chapter 630. Treated as a thief. Jiu Yundong was not very familiar with Xuanhe prefecture. Zhuangzi still had to be a shopkeeper in Fengkai County for 3 months. He had to nurture Chen Jintsai before he could come to the prefectural city. During this period of time, she could not let Zheng Gang work alone. That would be too tiring. She had to hire 2 more people to help. Recruit 1. Before Zhuangzi comes to the prefectural city, let our Shu stay here for 3 months, Xiao Qingyuan said. Firstly, our Shu was quite skilled now. If a local hooligan came, he would be shocked. Secondly, although the shop in the prefecture capital was big, 2 assistants were enough. If they recruited more, they would probably fight when Zhuangzi came over later. Jiu Yundong nodded. "Why don't we write a recruitment notice outside the shop?" Xiao Qingyuan was about to nod when Zheng Gang said hesitantly, "Boss, can I recommend someone?" Jiu Yundong was stunned. Of course. It would be best if Uncle Zheng had a suitable candidate. It would also save us the trouble of looking for people with completely unfamiliar personalities. Zheng Gang sighed. "I do have a candidate, but..." Jiu Yundong and Xiao Qingyuan looked at each other. "Go ahead. In the past, when I was a shopkeeper in this prefectural city, there was a shop assistant called Chang Shun. He was very hardworking and dutiful. However, there was a day when money was lost in the shop. No matter how hard I searched, I couldn't find it. Later, someone said that Chang Shun's mother was sick. She originally didn't have the money to treat her illness, but she suddenly obtained a sum of money and used that money to buy good medicine to treat her illness. Zheng Gang sighed. Boss suspected that Chang Shun had stolen the money. Chang Shun naturally denied it and explained that the money for his mother's treatment was given to him by a kind person because Chang Shun had helped that person. Boss didn't believe it and asked him to find that kind person. However, he was only passing by the Xuanhe prefecture. How could Chang Shun find him? Boss beat Chang Shun up and chased him out of the shop. At that time, this matter was quite big. Many shops around knew about it. Therefore, after Chang Shun was chased away, it was too difficult to find a job. I knew that Chang Shun definitely didn't do this, but I didn't have evidence. I couldn't help him even if I wanted to. It wasn't until a couple of days before I left that shop that I unintentionally heard that the money was secretly taken away by the boss' son. It had nothing to do with Chang Shun. Unfortunately, so what if he knew? His old boss was already dead and he had been chased out of the shop. The only thing he could do was to go to Chang Shun's house and tell him the truth. Chang Shun cried especially sadly when he heard that. The injustice on his body was finally washed away. He was not a thief. However, the surrounding neighbors did not eliminate their prejudice against Chang Shun because of Zheng Gang's testimony. They even felt that it was because Zheng Gang had been chased away by the boss, so he was dissatisfied and took revenge on the boss. Anyway, Zheng Gang did not have evidence. Zheng Gang really wanted to help Chang Shun, but he was also worried that those rumors would affect the business of the shop, so he hesitated. Zhou Yundong nodded. Of course I believe in Uncle Zheng. As long as Chang Shun's character is fine, it doesn't matter. Zhuangzi used to be a hooligan in the village, but hasn't he become a shopkeeper now? But I want to meet the shop assistant called Shunzi first. Zheng Gang was overjoyed. The wrinkles on his face were squeezed into a ball. I'll go find him now. Chapter 631. Cruel. As soon as Zheng Gang finished speaking, he turned around and was about to leave. However, he stopped after taking a step and said embarrassedly, Shunzi's house is a little far from here. When will the boss return to the inn? Why don't I bring him to the inn? Zhou Yundong thought for a moment and asked, where is his house? South of the city. South of the city? Coincidentally, we're almost done looking at the shops. I plan to go to the new house to take a look. I'll go with you so that you won't have to run around on a hot day. The Tianhai Academy was in the south of the city, so naturally, the house she had just bought was also in the south. Zheng Gang nodded repeatedly. All right. Before I leave, I'll take a look at the shop that Brother Xiao bought. Zhou Yundong turned around and saw Xiao Qingyuan's disappointed expression. However, after hearing her words, the corners of his lips curled up. Xiao Qingyuan took the lead and walked forward. It's not far. We'll be there soon. It was really not far. It was only a street away. Compared to Zhou Yundong's shop, the one for the pharmacy here was smaller. However, the backyard was much larger. After all, it would require more space to make medicine in the future. There were no medical centers nearby. It was very inconvenient for many people to get medicine. It seemed to be quite suitable for opening a pharmacy. However, it was still early. Xiao Qingyuan planned to rent out the shop first and collect some money. After checking the shop, the three of them got into the carriage and drove towards the south of the city. Chang Shun's house was said to be in the south of the city, but it was actually quite a distance away from the house that Zhou Yundong had bought. Compared to Zhou Yundong's school district house, Chang Shun's place was one of the slums. As soon as they entered the alley, the road immediately narrowed. In addition, many people's things were piled at the door, blocking most of the alley. Zhou Yundong and the others could not enter the alley on the huge carriage at all. A trace of embarrassment flashed across Zheng Gang's face. Boss, why don't you wait here with Qingyuan? I'll go in and call Chang Shun out. Not only was this alley narrow and noisy, but there were also all kinds of smells mixed together. It was simply indescribable. However, Zhou Yundong waved her hand. No need. Let's go in. The village is full of pits. It's not much better from here. Why can't we walk? The carriage was placed at the entrance of a small restaurant at the intersection. After paying a few copper coins to the shopkeeper to help take care of it, The three of them walked into the alley. Although the alley was a little messy, the smell of life was very strong. Children were running around happily on the road. Some women sat at the door, holding a sewing basket and looking at it. From time to time, they would yell. Occasionally, there would be the sound of metal striking and loud quarrels coming from the house. Changshan's house seemed to be very far inside. Zheng Gang led them for a long distance before finally stopping. He pointed at a small dilapidated courtyard in front of him and said, "That's it." Just as she finished speaking, the door of the courtyard was opened. Zheng Gang's eyes lit up and he said, "Hez Changshan." Jiyu Yundong looked up and saw a skinny young man holding a pole and about to leave. Zheng Gang raised his hand and was about to call out to him when he heard another ear-piercing voice. "Changshan, are you going out to work again? How can you find work? Those shops shouldn't need a thief, right?" The person who spoke was a woman, probably Changshan's neighbor. Her tone was very harsh. She sized up Changshan and came to a realization. "You're going out with a pole to be a porter. I heard that you lost your chamber pot job 2 days ago." Chapter 632. Damn it! Changshan clenched his fists tightly and turned to look at the woman who spoke angrily. However, he was not good with words. After his face turned red, he only said, "It's none of your business." "Ayo, how is it none of my business?" The woman laughed exaggeratedly. "Let me tell you, because of you, our reputation in this area is ruined. If our son hadn't been implicated by you, he wouldn't have been unable to find an easy job. You still have the cheek to continue living here. If it were me, I would have long found a place to hang myself so that my mother and sister would dare to go out." Changshan was trembling with anger, especially when the other party mentioned his mother and sister. He almost couldn't control himself. There was a crashing sound. At this moment, someone came out from behind Changshan. That person held a basin of water in his hand and splashed it directly at the woman opposite him. The woman was instantly drenched and looked exceptionally disheveled. She screamed and jumped around. "Damn it, how dare you splash it on me? What's wrong with splashing water on you?" The person finished splashing water and put away the wooden basin in her hand. She pointed at the woman's nose and scolded, "Who ruined our reputation in this area? It's you. If you hadn't gone around slandering my brother as a thief, my brother wouldn't have lost one job after another. Your son can't find a job because he's lazy. What does it have to do with my brother? Don't blame my brother for all the nonsense. My brother isn't a thief. My mother and I believe him. Don't talk nonsense for no reason. Get lost. You be *tch. No wonder you can't get married. You're so fierce and vicious at such a young age. You deserve to stay at home and be a spinster for the rest of your life." The woman was furious. She wiped the water off her face and realized that it was stinky. Her face turned even paler. The Ding family really made the right choice to break off the engagement. They long saw that you're not a good person. Little whore, in the future, you'll be. Before she could finish speaking, Changshan took a step forward with a dark expression. His fists were clenched tightly, as if he was about to hit someone. The woman was so frightened that she took a step back and stuttered, What are you trying to do? If you dare to say anything bad about my sister again, I won't be polite to you." Changshan kicked the stool beside the woman and the needle basket on it fell to the ground. The woman screamed and wanted to curse, but when she saw the siblings glaring at her, she immediately cowered. She only shouted indignantly, Just you wait. When my husband comes back, I'll teach you a lesson." Changshan glared at her and turned to go back. He picked up the pole on the ground again and said to his sister, "Su Qing, go in and close the door. I'll come back tonight." Su Qing frowned and looked at the pole in his hand. She wanted to say something but hesitated. After a while, she didn't say anything and only nodded. "Brother, be careful. Don't tire yourself out." "All right, I understand." Changshan turned around and was about to leave when he heard a cheerful and familiar voice. "Changshan." He was stunned. He looked in the direction of the voice and saw 3 people standing not far behind him. One of them was the shopkeeper he was familiar with, Zhang Gang. He was overjoyed. "Shopkeeper, why are you here? I'm here to look for you. Our boss is looking for a shop assistant. She heard that you're hardworking and insisted on coming over to take a look. Zheng Gang laughed. Chapter 633:1 Want you to be my shop assistant. Changshan was shocked, and so was Su Qing. The woman who was about to enter the room next door did not care about the water dripping from her body. She turned around and looked at Zheng Gang and the other two in shock. Zheng Gang chuckled. He wanted to say something just now, but his boss didn't let him move, so he could only watch. Now that the boss did not turn around and leave after seeing everything, it seemed that she planned to hire Changshan. He strode over and pointed at Jiyu Yundong. Changshan, let me introduce you. This is my current boss, Miss Jiyu. She has opened a shop in the prefectural city and is planning to hire a shop assistant. She asked if you want to come. Changshan's eyes suddenly lit up. When Jiyu Yundong looked over, he trembled nervously. He leaned the pole against the door, not knowing what to do. He rubbed his hands and said, I. Su Qing was also very surprised, but when she saw her brother like this, she immediately expected better from him. She hurriedly looked at Jiyu Yundong and said, Miss Jiyu, right? Come in first. It's very hot outside. Come in and have a glass of water to rest your feet. As she spoke, she moved aside and was about to let Jiyu Yundong walk in. Unexpectedly, at this moment, a sharp voice came from behind. Not to be outdone, the woman shouted, Miss, don't fall for it. You'll be in big trouble if you hire Su Changshan to work in your shop. Everyone at the door looked at the woman in unison. Su Changshan and Su Qing's expressions changed drastically, and they trembled with anger. When the woman saw this, she said smugly, Miss, I'm afraid you don't know. This Su Changshan is hardworking, but his hands are dirty. In the past, he was chased out by the owner of his shop. He was accused of stealing money from the shop. Miss, if you really want to find a shop assistant, you can look for my son. My son has a good character. Su Qing wanted to scold her, but she was worried that she would leave a bad impression on Jiyu Yundong. However, Zhang Gang pointed at her and said angrily, Nonsense. I've said before that Changshan is a good person. He never stole the boss money. Don't slander him here and ruin his reputation. Oh, it's you. I remember now. You did come a year ago. But you're on good terms with him. Perhaps you're in cahoots with him. You were also involved in stealing money. Miss, you must open your eyes wide and not fall for it. Otherwise, the shop will be emptied by them. Su Qing could no longer hold it in. She grabbed the pole beside her and wanted to rush over and smash her mouth. But Jiyu Yundong stopped her. Su Qing was stunned and felt uneasy. She was afraid that her brother's job would be ruined again. She was even more afraid that she might implicate shopkeeper Zheng. Jiyu Yundong looked at the woman and saw the smug look on her face. She laughed. I can judge for myself what kind of person Su Changshan is. As for whether your son has a good character, I can tell from your harshness as a mother. With that, she turned around and entered the courtyard without looking at her. The woman was stunned for a moment before she reacted. She immediately screamed, You're calling me mean? Where did you come from, little b*tch? How dare you call me mean? Let me tell you. Xiao Qingyuan looked over coldly. The woman instantly felt a chill run down her spine. She felt even more frightened than when she faced the furious Su Changshan just now. She no longer hesitated and quickly turned around to go home, not daring to say a word. Only then did Xiao Qingyuan enter. Zhang Gang hurriedly followed. Chapter 634, Salary. On the other hand, Su Changshan and Su Qing stood at the door and looked at each other before entering the courtyard. The Su family's courtyard was really small, even smaller than Aunt Ku's. Although Aunt Ku's house only had 2 sleeping rooms, the rooms were big. The 2 rooms in the Su family's house were pitifully small, as if they were one room that was separated by one wall. The central room was also small. When the 5 of them entered, the central room seemed to be filled. Su Qing quickly poured some water and stood behind Su Changshan. She looked uneasy. She was still worried that what the woman next door had said would leave a very bad impression on Jiyu Yundong. Jiyu Yundong took a sip of water to quench her thirst and went straight to the point. My surname is Zhou. My shop is on Dahui Road. It's a little far from here and will open in a few days. The shopkeeper is Uncle Zheng. You're familiar with him. He needs 2 workers. One has already been chosen. Uncle Zheng recommended you to me and said that you're honest and hardworking, so I came over to take a look. What about you? What do you think? Do you have any intention of coming along? Su Qing was very happy, and the worry in her heart was relieved. She quickly turned to look at her brother. Su Changshan was still a little confused. This girl actually wanted to hire him as a shop assistant. How could he have a job? He didn't have to think about finding work every day. When he was a porter, his salary was low and often delayed. Moreover, he would work under Uncle Zheng. Uncle Zheng was a good person and never hit or scolded them casually. Except, after Su Changshan was done being excited, he gradually calmed down and said, Miss Ji, you heard it just now. I have a bad reputation. Are you referring to being treated as a thief? Uncle Zheng has already told me that. I trust him, so I hope you won't let him down. If you're willing, work hard in the shop in the future. I won't treat you badly. Hearing that she didn't mind, Su Changshan finally heaved a long sigh of relief. There was a happy smile on his face. I am willing. I'll do my best. Yes, about the salary, 3 taels of silver a month temporarily. If you do well in the future, your salary will increase. If you think there's no problem, we can sign the contract now. The salary in the prefectural city was higher. Zheng Gang did well in the county city, so she gave him 10 taels of silver. In the future, Jiyu Yundong felt that there should be no problem with increasing his salary annually. She thought about it. After the new year, she could also raise the salary of the old employees at the workshop. When Su Changshan heard that it was 3 taels of silver, how could he not be willing? He hurriedly nodded. Independent Illinois, go borrow a pen and paper now. We can sign the contract soon. There's no need. I have the contract. You just need to put your thumbprint on it. Jiyu Yundong had already prepared multiple employment contracts. The names and positions were different, but the contents were similar. Su Changshan took it and pressed his thumb on it without even reading. Jiyu Yundong smiled. It seemed that Zheng Gang's trust was not wrong. Su Changshan also trusted Zheng Gang very much. She was quite satisfied with Su Changshan. Although he was not good with words, it could be seen that he was very protective of his family and was not afraid of hardship or exhaustion. Zhuangzi, on the other hand, was a smart person. He was eloquent and complimented Su Changshan. The 2 of them were very suitable for each other. If both of them could talk, they would probably quarrel. Jiyu Yundong was about to leave after settling on the shop assistant. At this moment, the courtyard door was pushed open and an older woman came in with a basket. Chapter 635, The shop will close sooner or later. Seeing that there were a few strangers in the courtyard, the woman was stunned for a moment and looked at Su Changshan and his sister in confusion. Su Changshan quickly went forward to take the basket from her hand. Inside the basket were clothes. They were heavy, and the woman's palm had a mark. When Su Changshan saw this, he felt a little sad. However, he quickly smiled and placed the basket on the steps at the side. He said to the woman, "Mother, you're back. This is Uncle Zheng. You've seen him before. This is Miss Jiyu and Master Xiao. Miss Jiyu is opening a shop in the prefectural city and asked me to be a shop assistant. I have a job now. Mother, you don't have to wash clothes for others in the future." Ever since Su Changshan was labeled as a thief, the Su family's life had become difficult. Su Changshan went out every day to find manual labor. Su Qing did some embroidery work at home, so Mother Su went to collect some clothes to wash. It was better in the summer. In the winter, the water was cold, and Mother Su's hands were often swollen like steamed buns. It was very tiring. Even so, she would not be able to earn much. Now that Su Changshan had a proper and stable job, his mother did not have to work so hard. When Mother Su heard that this stranger was the boss who was hiring her son, she immediately became excited. She hurriedly wiped her hands and invited Jiyu Yundong in. "Boss Jiyu, don't stand there. Come in and sit. It's almost noon. Everyone, Have lunch here. I'll go buy groceries now. It'll be quick. She turned around and was about to leave when Jiyu Yundong quickly stopped her. Aunt, you don't have to. I still have something on. I'm leaving now. It's rare for you to come here. How can you leave without eating? There's really no need. Zhang Gang also said, Sister-in-law Su, rest for a while. In 2 days, ask Chang Shun to look for me at Dahui Road. Well, leave first. Xiao Qingyuan nodded and opened the courtyard door first, letting Yundong leave before going out. When Jiyu Yundong went out, she saw the woman next door looking over. When Jiyu Yundong looked back, she immediately retracted her head. Only after the 3 of them had left did the woman come out. She ran to the Su family's door and knocked. Su Qing came over to open the door. When she saw her, she closed the door without a word. The woman almost bumped her nose. You little b****. Are you feeling good now that you have a job? Just you wait. Let's see how long your brother can do this job. Ph. After saying that, he even spat on the ground. He's just a small shop assistant. He thinks he's a big shot. Who knows when that small shop will close down? She cursed and went back. Someone beside her asked curiously what was going on. The woman added fuel to the fire and told him not to go to that shop to buy things. To be able to hire a thief as a shop assistant, this stranger definitely did not do any legitimate business. However, when someone asked her what the shop was for and where it was, the woman could not answer for a moment. Mother Su asked the same question. Su Changshun touched his head and said in embarrassment, I didn't ask in detail. It seems to be a food business. But Uncle Zheng recommended it, so it definitely won't be bad. Mother, don't worry. It's just that the place is a little far. It's on Dahui Road. I might be late coming home in the future. Mother Su waved her hand. It's not a big deal. Later, you can bring me there so that I'll know where it is. I can even send you lunch. The shop is small, but it's not a big deal. Work hard. It's better than carrying bags for others. After a pause, she suddenly asked, I heard that young Master Xiao seems to call Miss Ji Yundong. Chapter 636. You're committing a sin. When Xiao Qingyuan went out, he did call out softly. If Mother Su had not been focused on them at that time, she might not have heard it. Su Changshun was stunned and nodded. Yes, I think Miss Gus' name is Jiyu Yundong. What's wrong, Mother? Mother Su frowned. I keep feeling that this name is a little familiar, as if I've heard it somewhere before. I just can't remember where. Su Qing smiled. Mother, this name isn't strange. There's another person called Li Yundong at the entrance of our alley. Boss Jiyu has always been in Fengkai County. She's only been here for 2 days. It's impossible for you to know her. That's true. Mother Su quickly stopped struggling. She was old now, so it was possible that she remembered wrongly. But you have to wear good clothes to work in the shop. Little Qing, I remember that there's still a piece of fabric in the cabinet. Make a new set of clothes for your brother. Don't embarrass the boss. Sure thing. With work to do, the 3 members of the Su family were completely different. All their gloominess was swept away, as if they were already standing in front of a bright future and did not have to worry anymore. Jiyu Yundong, who was in the carriage, had a good impression of the Su family. The family was simple. Su Changshun was an honest person, and his mother and sister were reasonable. They were not difficult to get along with and would not drag him down. With the shop assistant's matter settled, Jiyu Yundong felt relieved and went back to her new house. The few of them had just arrived at the alley outside when they saw a few wooden carts parked there. There was a lot of furniture placed horizontally on them. Seeing them, Ah Shu, who was instructing people to move the things, immediately came over. Young master, miss, according to your instructions, the house has been tidied up and the furniture has been bought. How is it? Not bad, right? Laishi brought us to buy it. The price is fair. Jiyu Yundong could not help but laugh when she saw his expression. She went up and touched the bed frame. It was indeed not bad. Yesterday, Aunt Ku had gotten someone to calculate the most suitable date for moving. It would be today. Although it was a little rushed, there was no choice. His father had completed the admission procedures today, so they had to stay here. Hence, Shu and Zhou's plan to capture the cicadas was ruined. They had to clean up the house and move. Fortunately, there were many of them and the house was clean. What needed to be tidied up was quickly tidied up. In addition, there were familiar people who showed them the way. They bought what needed to be bought. In just one morning, the house suddenly felt warm and homely. Yundong looked into the house. Her parents lived in the main room, which had a small study. The left wing was for her and Yunke, and the right wing was for Yunshu and Yuanji. There was also a room for Shuirong and the rest. Every room was equipped with the most basic bed, cabinet, and other things. It was very complete. Yundong was very satisfied, but Aunt Ku suddenly pulled her aside and asked, "You've also bought a courtyard in the prefectural city. Your parents live here. Shouldn't you buy another batch of servants?" Yundong said, "I want Madame Jiang to come over. Besides Shuidao and Shuirong, it should be enough." Aunt Ku couldn't help but roll her eyes. Ms. Jiang and Tong Ping are husband and wife. You ask Ms. Jiang to come over, but Tong Ping is alone in Yongfu village? Aren't you committing a sin? The corners of Yundong's mouth twitched. Was it that serious? And Tong Shuidao. What was wrong with Shuidao? She didn't have a husband, right? Chapter 637. The four from the Lu family. Aunt Ku felt that although Yundong was smart, there was still something to learn in this aspect. Shuidao is indeed not bad, but she's jumpy and thinks about going out all day long. She's not meticulous enough. She's suitable to follow you, and you like to run around. However, it's not suitable for her to take care of your mother. With your mother's personality, she should find someone more meticulous. Yundong thought about it and felt that it made sense. Not only did the servant have to be more meticulous, but they also had to be smart. She remembered what happened to Jiang Yongkang last time. It was hard to guarantee that no one would have designs on her mother now. Also, when her father checked the house yesterday, a woman had already winked at her father. Speaking of which, she was so young and beautiful, but no one had seduced her. Her parents' market price was actually better than hers. Yundong had deep doubts about her charm. However, when she saw Shao Qingyuan beside her, this suspicion was dispelled by her. Still, Aunt Ku was right. They indeed had to buy a batch of servants. There was no need for a lot. 3 to 4 people in a family was enough. Thus, after lunch, Yundong brought Madame Yang and Keek to the agency with Aunt Ku. She felt that since they were bought to take care of Madame Yang and Keek, they had to be pleasing to the eye. This time, Yundong's requirements were slightly higher. She wanted to find someone who could read. It would be best if it was a family. Other than taking care of Madame Yang, she also needed someone to work at home and look after the family. Once the requirements were high, it would not be easy to find them. After going to 2 agencies, she finally found what she wanted. The family's surname was Lu. The couple had 2 daughters. One of them was about the same age as Yundong and looked clean and pretty. When she smiled, she revealed a small dimple and looked especially likable. At that time, when she smiled, Madame Yang also smiled. Moreover, she could read. It was said that she used to be a second-class maidservant in a rich family. Because she had served Miss since she was young, she learned something from her. However, when she grew up and became beautiful, that young master took a fancy to her and wanted to take her as a concubine. She was not happy. Because of this matter was stirred up for a few days. In the end, Madame found out and beat them up before selling their entire family. This girl's name was Lu Hongxiu. She spoke softly, gently, and carefully. Moreover, she knew who was in charge. She did not even look at Shao Qingyuan, which satisfied Yundong. Yundong almost rolled her eyes when she saw other girls looking at Shao Qingyuan while she interviewed them. The Lu couple was also honest. Lu Sheng was about the same age as Dajiang. He used to run errands for the master. His wife, Madame Niu, worked in the kitchen. Because she wasn't competitive, she was just a kitchen helper, but according to her, her culinary skills were actually not bad. Both of them were very diligent. They also had a younger daughter called Lu Hongqiao. She was about 7 or 8 years old. It was just nice that she could be a companion with Yunke. The little girl already had friends in Yongfu village. She was still very unfamiliar here. Yunshu was not around either. Only when she had a child of about the same age to play with could her be cheered up. When the 4 members of the Lu family were brought back, they were still a little nervous. They only looked at each other when they stood in front of the small house. They took a deep breath and followed Jiyu Yundong in. Unexpectedly, just as they entered, a voice suddenly sounded in their ears. "Is Lady Jiyu back? Is Lady Jiyu back?" It was not just the 4 members of the Lu family. Even Jiyu Yundong and the others were so frightened by this unfamiliar voice that they almost turned around and left. Chapter 638, I've turned bald while waiting for you. The owner of the voice quickly rushed in front of them. After looking around, he locked his gaze on Jiyu Yundong. "You must be Miss Jiyu." Xiao Qingyuan took a step forward and stood in front of him. He frowned and looked at him warily. Jiyu Yundong looked at Jiyu Dajiang, who came out later. "Father, what's going on?" Jiyu Dajiang looked helpless. He rubbed his forehead and said, "This is Master Xia from Tianhai Academy. He specially came to discuss painting skills with you." He also had a headache. When he had just arrived at the academy, he did not even have time to look for the supervisor before he was stopped by Master Xia, who directly asked him where the painter that had guided the students yesterday was. Jiyu Dajiang looked at his anxious expression and thought that he was here to find trouble. He immediately ran away warily. It was not easy for Jiyu Dajiang to shake him off and find the supervisor to settle all the matters regarding admission. When he was about to leave, he did not expect to see Master Xia again at the entrance of the academy. At that time, he had a pile of paintings in his hands and looked like he was determined to follow Jiyu Dajiang. He even climbed into Jiyu Dajiang's carriage before Jiyu Dajiang did. It was as if he would cling to Jiyu Dajiang if Jiyu Dajiang didn't bring him to look for the artist. What could Jiyu Dajiang do? He already knew from the gatekeeper that this was a teacher from the academy, and he was a teacher who was very passionate about painting. Therefore, Jiyu Dajiang could only bring him back. Coincidentally, Jiyu Yundong had just left the house before they returned. Master Xia had been waiting at home for more than 2 hours. His head was bald from waiting. From time to time, he would run out of the courtyard to take a look. He almost broke the threshold. Hence, when Jiyu Yundong and the rest returned, he was the first to rush up. "Miss Jiyu, I've finally met you. You don't know, but I wasn't at the academy yesterday. I didn't even know that there was an artist reviewing the students' paintings. When I returned and heard the news, I quickly ran to the fate hut of the mountain elder. However, you guys had already left. I was just 1 step late. I was just 1 step late from seeing you. I was so frustrated that I didn't sleep well the entire night. I waited for your father at the academy early in the morning. This time, I finally meet you." Master Xia was extremely excited. Jiyu Yundong looked at him and felt as if he would cry if he continued. "It's good that you're back. Let me tell you, I brought my paintings over. Come and show me what's wrong. Why can't I draw a satisfactory painting?" As he spoke, he became anxious again and almost reached out to grab Jiyu Yundong. Jiyu Yundong quickly told him to calm down. "Master Xia, wait for a while. I've just returned home. I can only calm down and look at the paintings after I've arranged everything, right?" Master Xia wanted to ask her to leave everything to Jiyu Dajiang, but he was in someone else's house after all. It was not good to go overboard. Therefore, he could only suppress her desire and look at Jiyu Yundong eagerly, hoping that she could finish everything in an instant. Jiyu Yundong was speechless. She heaved a sigh of relief and explained the background of the 4 people from the Lu family to Father Jiyu. Then, she asked Tong Shuidao and Xuerong to bring them away and settle them down. After everyone was busy with their own things, she followed the impatient Master Xia to the study. The study had just been tidied up not long ago. There was a huge desk in front of the windowsill, and the pen rack on the table was already prepared. Moreover, the brush, ink, paper, and inkstone were all done. She didn't know if Ashu and the others had arranged them beforehand or after Master Xia arrived. What shocked Jiyu Yundong was the pile of things on the table. Chapter 639, Same lecture hall. Come. Sit here. Master Xie held the stool enthusiastically. He was not embarrassed by the overly enthusiasm at all. At one point, Jiyu Yundong even felt that this was Master Xie's home. The corners of Jiyu Yundong one's mouth twitched. She pointed at the paintings piled on the table, and her hands trembled uncontrollably. Don't tell me you drew all these. Do you want me to finish reading them today? Master Xie was stunned, as if he had just realized that this was a difficult situation. He immediately laughed dryly and reached out to remove half of the paintings. Jiyu Yundong was speechless. Seeing that she didn't say anything, Master Xie thought for a moment and took off half of the paintings. Jiyu Yundong still did not speak. Master Xie gritted his teeth and removed 3 scrolls. But Jiyu Yundong remained calm. Master Xie could not hold it in anymore. No more. There are no more than 20 paintings here. Jiyu Yundong rubbed her forehead and said, Master Xie, actually, I think 1 painting should be enough. You've practiced so many paintings. You must have figured out many drawing methods by yourself and gained a lot of comprehension in your mind. Then I don't think there are many problems. Let's discuss and study 1 painting. You can find out what's wrong with the subsequent paintings, right? Master Xie felt that what she said made a lot of sense. Hence, he nodded and began to search the pile of paintings for a long time. Jiyu Yundong looked up and met Jiyu Dajiang's eyes. After a long time, seeing that Master Xie had yet to come out, Jiyu Yundong simply went to chat with Jiyu Dajiang. Did father's trip to the academy go smoothly today? Don't worry, it's quite good. I've already paid my tuition fees. The academy has already given me student robes and told me some of the academy's rules and school time. Someone even brought father to the academy's canteen. They originally wanted to arrange a dormitory, but we have a place to stay, so I didn't go. Jiyu Dajiang felt a little emotional. To be honest, this was his first time attending school. Although he had read books when he was young, he had only studied at the old elementary scholar's house. There were no classmates. Now that he had classmates, this feeling was actually very novel. By the way, I'm in the same lecture hall as Cheating now. However, Cheating didn't seem to be in the academy today. Instead, Zhou Guang and the others he saw yesterday were there. When they saw him, they greeted him happily. Jiyu Dajiang had only gone to familiarize himself with the school. Classes would only officially start tomorrow. Jiyu Yundong was very surprised and more or less relieved. Although Cheating was at Sunder, he was not a bad person. The few people who were good friends with him were also quite cute. He had known them yesterday, so he was not worried that he would not be able to fit in. As the father and daughter were talking, Master Xie finally found the painting. When he took it out, Jiyu Yundong wanted to faint. As expected, he did not suffer any losses. He actually found a painting that was as complicated as the river diagram on the Qingming festival. Master Xie looked at her happily. Come, take a look first. Jiyu Yundong did not want to look at it at all. Her eyes were filled with deep disdain. If she had known earlier, she would not have asked him to search just now. It would have been better if she had just taken a random painting. No, the key was that while Master Xie could not feel anything, why did he have to challenge such a complicated painting? However, since she had agreed, she calmed down and looked at the painting carefully. Fortunately, although the painting was complicated, the technique was traceable. Jiyu Yundong quickly discovered Master Xie's problem. Chapter 640, My Condolences. Jiyu Yundong was also a painter. She was very patient with Mr. Xie, who was like-minded. Seeing that the two of them had already started discussing, Jiyu Dajiang picked up a book and sat quietly at the side to read. It was only when Xiao Qingyuan came in that he went out to talk to his wife and daughter. After some time, Jiyu Yundong raised her head and rubbed her sore neck. A cup of tea suddenly appeared in her hand. She looked up and met Xiao Qingyuan's dissatisfied expression. She immediately smiled. Xiao Qingyuan was dissatisfied with Master Xie, so he didn't even serve him tea. However, Master Xie didn't care at all. He didn't even realize that Jiyu Dajiang had long changed to Xiao Qingyuan in the room. He only nodded repeatedly with his painting. Excellent, excellent. With Miss Gus' guidance, it's as if I've been enlightened. I've learned a lot. Master Xia laughed and put down the painting in his hand. He went to take another one. This time, Jiyu Yundong did not need to say anything. He could find the problem himself. He immediately beamed with joy and danced with joy. After a long while, he calmed down and asked Jiyu Yundong, "Yundong, your painting skills are so good. Your teacher must be a big shot in the current era. I wonder where he is now. Can you introduce him?" Jiyu Yundong said, "I might never see him again in this lifetime." Her teacher was in another world. However, Master Xia misunderstood and thought that her teacher was no longer in this world. He immediately sighed. The heavens are jealous of geniuses. My condolences. Jiyu Yundong was speechless. Master Xia did not continue the topic. He flipped through his paintings again. After looking at them for a while, he took out a blank piece of paper and began to draw with a charcoal pen. This time, it was as if God was helping him. It was exceptionally smooth and felt. The smile on Master Xia's face never faded. Jiyu Yundong shook her head. Although she liked to draw, it was nothing compared to Master Xia's hunger. She didn't disturb him and walked out of the study with Xiao Qingyuan. It was only in the evening that Jiyu Yundong re-entered the study and called Master Xia, who had forgotten to eat and sleep, out for dinner. Today was considered a housewarming. Jiyu Yundong personally cooked many good dishes. In the beginning, Master Xia was unwilling to go out. Now that his inspiration had exploded, he had endless energy. It would not be a problem for him to stay in the study until the end of time. However, after Jiyu Yundong twirled the fried chicken drumstick around his nose, he decisively put down the charcoal pen and quickly ran to the reception hall. There were a lot of people, so they had to be divided into 2 tables to sit down. In fact, Jiyu Yundong had wanted to invite Knight Song over for such an important day. After all, they had moved to the prefectural city. She had to let her friend know her address and get to know her family. Unfortunately, Knight Song was not around. Aunt Ku said that he had been sent elsewhere by his father to train. Therefore, Master Xia was the only guest in the Jiyu family. Either table was filled with more than 10 dishes. Firstly, it was to celebrate the housewarming, and secondly, it was to celebrate Jiyu Dajiang's entrance into school. Wouldn't everyone be happy? After everyone was full, Jiyu Dajiang personally sent Master Xia out. Then, he got Xue Rong to drive the carriage back to the academy. On this trip, Master Xia had made a breakthrough in his painting skills. He had also eaten until his mouth was full of oil. He was already satisfied. Yes, he could still find an excuse to eat next time. That Jiyu girl's culinary skills were too good. Not only was she good at cooking, but she was also good-looking. It was a pity that she was already engaged. Otherwise, he would have a lot of young talents to introduce to her. The lively courtyard finally quietened down. After everyone had cleaned up, Jiyu Yundong got up and walked towards the Lu family's house. Chapter 641, Jiyu Yundong's arrangement. Lu Hongxiu was a meticulous person, so when Tong Shuidao led them to tidy up the rooms, she learned some things about the Jiyu family from her. After knowing that the Jiyu family was simple, the old master and young mistress were very kind to the servants, and there were no lecherous young masters, the 4 members of the Lu family heaved a sigh of relief. The uneasiness of coming to this unfamiliar new master's house gradually eased. Hence, when Jiyu Yundong came to look for them, the Lu family was not too panicked except for a trace of fear. Jiyu Yundong's gaze swept across the 4 of them and finally stopped on Lu Hongxiu. Half a day has passed. I think you should know the situation at home from Shuidao. Lu Hongxiu was shocked and quickly knelt down. Miss, please forgive me. I was wrong. I shouldn't have asked. Get up. Jiyu Yundong interrupted her. Lu Hongxiu was stunned. She looked up slightly and carefully glanced at Jiyu Yundong. Seeing that she did not seem to blame her, she slowly stood up. However, she was still nervous. She did not expect Miss to see through her thoughts at a glance. Lu Hongxiu panicked. She had just arrived and had already left such a bad impression on her mistress. But Jiyu Yundong said, "It's normal for you to inquire about the master's situation in advance. As long as it's not about the master's privacy, I won't stop you from doing this. It means that you're thorough and cautious. The 4 members of the Lu family were slightly relieved. Jiyu Yundong said, since you already know what our family does, I won't say anything else. From now on, as long as you're loyal to the Jiyu family, I won't treat you badly. As for what you have to do, I've said it before. It's mainly to take care of my mother and my sister. Hongxiu is meticulous. From now on, she will follow my mother. You know that my mother is like a child now, so you don't have to restrain her. She can do whatever she wants. If she wants to work or go out, she can do whatever she wants. You will help her, but don't let her cross the line. Also, don't let anyone bully her. If you encounter anyone with ill intentions who wants to deceive my mother, feel free to tell me or my father. Hongqiao will stay with Keek. She likes to eat. Watch her. Don't let her eat too much. Uncle Lu will be in charge of the family matters, especially my father's schoolmates. You have to treat them well. Auntie Nyo used to help in the kitchen. You'll have to take care of the stove in the future. The 4 members of the Lu family hurriedly agreed. Jiyu Yundong had already explained the main point clearly. They knew what else to do. After giving her instructions, Jiyu Yundong stood up. It's getting late. You guys should rest early. Take care, miss. After Jiyu Yundong left, the 4 members of the Lu family looked at each other. After a long time, Lu Sheng said, go to sleep. We'll be busy tomorrow morning. The 3 of them did not say anything and nodded. They went to bed. Jiyu Yundong left the house and went straight to Jiyu Dajiang and Madame Yang's room. She told them the location of the shop she had seen today and the staff she had recruited. At the same time, she instructed Shu to set off for Yongfu village tomorrow morning and ask Uncle Feng if he was coming to the prefectural city. Shu agreed happily. The next morning, he rode his horse and left the prefectural city at full speed. At the same time, Jiyu Dajiang successfully became a student of Tianhai Academy. Madame Yang was staying at the house, and Lu Hongxiu was taking care of her. Aunt Ku was also staying here temporarily, so Jiyu Yundong was completely at ease. Chapter 642. It's not a small shop. Jiyu Yundong, on the other hand, focused on drawing the shop's blueprint. As expected, Feng Daneng brought 2 workers to the prefectural city on the 3rd day. He was very happy and energetic. He looked very motivated. Jiyu Yundong wanted him to rest for a day, but he refused. The moment he arrived, he asked her to bring him to the shop to take a look. Jiyu Yundong could only bring him to the shop and explain the situation to him with the blueprint in her hand. Previously, in Fengkai County, Feng Daneng had already experienced it. The shop here was much larger, but the style was not too different. He had an idea. The interior renovation was mainly carpentry work, so the 2 handymen Feng Daneng brought this time were good at this. Soon, the shop was bustling with activity. After Zheng Gang and the others left that day, Su Changshun went to Dahue Road every day to take a look. He was a little worried when he saw that the door was not open. At this moment, he finally saw Zheng Gang's figure and hurriedly ran over. Zheng Gang was shocked to see him. Why are you here? Su Changshun chuckled. I'm here to help. Rascal. Zheng Gang smiled and patted his head. He did not stop him and led him into the shop. Jiyu Yundong was also very surprised to see him, but she was naturally happy to see him so diligent. Su Changshun was really the type of person who did not talk much but worked very hard. Occasionally, when Jiyu Yundong and Feng Daneng discussed the structure of the shop, he would listen quietly at the side. He looked like he did not understand but was trying his best to learn. He was actually a little cute. Jiyu Yundong had asked a waiter from a nearby restaurant to deliver lunch. The food was delicious, but it was a little expensive. Seeing this, Su Changshun fell into deep thought. When they returned at night, it was a little late. Su Changshun was still covered in sawdust and looked dirty. When the woman next door saw this, she immediately smiled. You ran out every day and came back listless. I knew that no shop would hire you as a shop assistant at all. Today, you finally started to look for work elsewhere. TSK, TSK, TSK. You even showed me your attitude a few days ago. Serves you right. Su Changshun ignored her and entered the courtyard excitedly. Mother Su was a little surprised to see him like this. Is the shop not open yet? It's open. I saw the owner and Uncle Zheng today. The shop is being renovated. I've been helping for the entire day. Mother Su's eyes lit up. That's good, that's good. I've been worried for the past few days. I was afraid that something would happen. Mother, don't worry. Uncle Zheng won't lie to me. Su Changshun entered the house and changed his clothes. When he came out, he said to Mother Su, Mother, before I came back, I told the owner that there's a master working in the shop these few days. It's not convenient to eat or boil water. I thought that you should help cook for 2 days. The owner agreed. Mother Su was pleasantly surprised. Really? I can cook for a few days? Yes, the boss plans to pay Mother 50 copper coins a day. It's just cooking for a few days. There's no need for money. There's no need for so much money. Su Changshun was helpless. He had said the same thing, but the boss insisted on giving it to him. He was not as eloquent as the boss, so he could only agree. Therefore, the next day, Su Chang took Mother Su to Dahui Road early in the morning. Looking at the huge 2-story shop in front of her, Mother Su's eyes could not help but widen. No, wasn't it a small shop? Chapter 643, Flower. At first, Mother Su really thought that it was just a small shop. The shop where her son used to be a shop assistant was not very big. However, regardless of whether it was a small shop or not, as long as her son had a stable job, it was much better than being a porter outside every day. Therefore, she did not even ask how much his salary was. Unexpectedly, this shop was so big. Not only were there 2 floors, but the inside was also surprisingly big. She was very happy. With such a big shop, the Zhou family's business was definitely not small. Such a big shop's owner even took a fancy to her son as a shop assistant. In the future, when the Zhou family's business grew bigger, Changshun would also rise and become more promising. At this moment, Mother Su heaved a sigh of relief. Zhou Yundong also came early. When she saw Mother Su, she walked over with a smile. I'll have to trouble Auntie for the next few days. This is the money for groceries. Auntie, feel free to cook any food. The workers do hard labor. The food can't be bad. Mother Su looked at the 5 taels of silver in her hand and could not help but tremble. This boss Zhou was too magnanimous. This was only the second time they met, and she gave her silver just like that. She even gave her 5 taels in one go. Wasn't she afraid that she would embezzle the money? Seeing that she did not speak for a long time, Zhou Yundong asked curiously, "What's wrong, Aunt? Is there a problem?" No problem. I'll go buy groceries now. I guarantee that the workers will be full. Mother Su carefully took the silver and quickly found someone to ask about the market before leaving in a hurry. Zhou Yundong did not have to worry about these things. She was also very busy. This was her first step out of Fengkai County, so she took it very seriously. She had personally watched over the renovation of the shop. As for transporting goods, Xiao Qingyuan had already brought Zhou and the others back to Yongfu village. This was the first time they transported goods from Yongfu village to the Xuanhe prefecture. Xiao Qingyuan had to personally lead the way before he could be at ease. He would leave the rest of the trips to Tongping and Chen Jinbao. Fortunately, Uncle Feng and the rest were already familiar with it. There was no problem in communication, which made Zhou Yundong much less worried. Not long after, Mother Su returned with a basket full of vegetables. At the same time, she was holding a flower in her hand, a bright and tender yellow sunflower. Zhou Yundong was stunned. The flower was beautiful. She suddenly thought of what Zhou Dajiang had mentioned about Madame Yang's love for planting flowers. Zhou Yundong was stunned for a moment and could not help but stop what she was doing. Yes, she was very busy, but she seemed to have neglected many things. She had never noticed that her mother liked to plant flowers. Even if she knew, she did not seem to take it to heart. She only bought servants and handed her over to the servants to take care of. For the past 2 days, Lu Hongxiu had been telling her about Madame Yang's daily life. It seemed to be no different from before. She ate, drank, and did some work every day, repeating the same actions day after day. Jiyu Yundong had her own business. She liked to earn money and hoped that one day, she would be able to count money until her hands cramped. She had a goal and direction and could keep moving forward. Jiyu Dajiang and Jiyu Yunshu liked to read. They had left home, had classmates and teachers, and were also moving towards their goals. Yunka liked to eat, and she also liked to cook. Even though she was still young, she also had things she liked and she watched others cook seriously. Once, Jiyu Yundong even saw her holding mud and playing house. She repeated the process of how her sister fried the chicken drumstick without missing a single detail. Everyone seemed to have found something they liked and were working hard. Except Madame Yang. Chapter 644. Familiar person Jiyu Yundong realized that she had always treated Madame Yang as a child. She wanted her to do whatever she wanted. Her mother could work, rest, and play as she pleased. However, she had forgotten that no matter how young a child was, they would have their own favorite things, even if it was in stages. Madame Yang liked flowers. In the past, when the Jiyu family's conditions didn't allow it, she didn't show it. Now that the conditions allowed it, she had already developed a habit of keeping it to herself and never mentioned it. Mother Su saw that Jiyu Yundong was staring at the flower in her hand without saying anything. She was a little nervous and asked softly, "Boss, is there a problem with the flower?" "No." Jiyu Yundong came back to her senses and hurriedly shook her head. She smiled and said, "I just think that these flowers are quite beautiful." Mother Su explained, "When I came back from buying groceries just now, I met a young lady selling flowers. I saw her accidentally trip over a rock and almost fell. I helped her up. Look, she gave me a flower. At that time, it was really quite dangerous. If the young lady really fell, she would have fallen into the water." She was actually a little afraid that Jiyu Yundong would misunderstand that she had used the money Jiyu Yundong had given her to buy flowers, so she explained very clearly. "I also think that these flowers are quite beautiful. I saw a small bottle in the backyard. I will plug it in and place it on the table. Everyone will be in a good mood just by looking at it." Jiyu Yundong nodded. "Then Aunt, do you know where people sell flowers nearby? I want to buy some and bring them home." Mother Su was stunned and immediately reacted. "Well, I'm not familiar with this area. However, the young lady who sold flowers just now told me that there's a market at the end of Dahui Road. It specializes in selling flowers, birds, fish, insects, cats, dogs, and some porcelain, antiques, and wood carvings. That young lady's stall is in the corner of the market." Jiyu Yundong raised her eyebrows. There was actually such a flower and bird market. She nodded and looked at Feng Daneng, who was busy. She said goodbye to him and left. When the carriage reached the end of Dahui Road, there was indeed a market bustling with noise. Jiyu Yundong had just alighted from the carriage when she heard many people greeting her by the roadside. "Come and take a look. This is my family's ancestral jade pendant. Look at the color and feeling, it's really top grade. Most importantly, it's cheap. It only costs 5 taels of silver." Jiyu Yundong quickened her pace. The ancestral jade pendant only cost 5 taels of silver. This was too exaggerated. At least make it more realistic. She walked inside and stopped at the place where the flowers were sold. Indeed, she saw a little girl squatting in front of a stall. However, the little girl was not in a good state at this moment. There was a small potted plant in front of her that had shattered. The flowers inside were lying on the ground, revealing their tender roots. The little girl wiped her tears sadly and carefully picked up the flower and placed it aside. Then, she slowly placed the soil on the ground into the broken jar. Jiyu Yundong had just frowned when she heard a mean voice. "Serves you right. Who asked you to refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit? 20 copper coins for a pot is not cheap. I wanted all your flowers in one go. You and your mother could go home earlier, but you refused. You really don't know what's good for you." Jiyu Yundong looked in the direction of the voice and saw a middle-aged man standing there. She paused. She felt that this person looked familiar. Chapter 645. My eyes hurt. The middle-aged man was thin, but his expression was a little gloomy. There was also a stall in front of him with more than 20 pots of flowers. There were not many things, but they occupied a large area and squeezed the little girl's stall into a corner. There were also more than 20 pots of flowers in the little girl's stall, but they were all squeezed together. Almost all the small flower pots were piled together, and it was impossible to tell which potted plant those flowers belonged to. However, the little girl clearly cherished these flowers very much. On such a hot day, there were 2 paper umbrellas covering the flowers. There were even some water droplets on the flowers, as if they had just been watered. They looked especially bright and refreshing. On the other hand, the middle-aged man held an oil paper umbrella in his hand to block the sun above his head. The flowers were listless, making people not have the slightest desire to buy them. Moreover, what did he just say? He wanted to buy this girl's pot of flowers for 20 copper coins. In this day and age, expensive flowers like yarrohuang and weizi were worth hundreds or thousands of taels. Of course, the flowers in front of the little girl were all ordinary flowers, but they were also very ornamental. It could be seen that they had been carefully taken care of. Even if they were not very expensive, they were definitely worth more than 20 copper coins per pot. This middle-aged man was quite scheming. Just as Zhou Yundong was thinking, a woman suddenly rushed over from afar. She was still holding a small kettle in her hand. She must have gone to the river to get water. When she came back and saw the little girl wiping her tears, her heart ached. "What's wrong? Mother, I didn't protect little Hui well." The little girl pointed at the flower on the ground, looking very sad. Her mother patted her head. Before she could comfort her, she heard the middle-aged man's mocking laughter again. "Ha ha ha, you actually named flowers. Are you a fool?" His words were harsh, but Zhou Yundong suddenly remembered who this person was. Shopkeeper Pan. Back then, the shopkeeper who wanted to cheat Xiao Qingyuan ended up asking for trouble and was hung on a tree by Xiao Qingyuan with a rope. He had been arrested and taken away. He was already released after almost a year. Moreover, he used to be shopkeeper Pan. Now, he had fallen to the point where he could only occupy a seat here and sell flowers. Yes, he had lost a lot of weight now. No wonder Zhou Yundong could not tell at a glance. However, after being in prison for so long, he still refused to change. In the past, he wanted to take advantage of Xiao Qingyuan. Now, he was bullying the women and children. He was simply hopeless. Zhou Yundong shook her head and walked to the mother and daughter. She squatted down and said to the little girl, "I want to buy your flowers, okay?" The little girl looked up with tears in the corners of her eyes. Her mother also looked at Zhou Yundong happily and hurriedly nodded. "Of course. Miss, you can choose whichever pot you like. Look, there are orchids, lilies, hibiscus, and mountain pellets. They are all beautiful." Zhou Yundong indeed thought that they were very good-looking. The young lady also smiled through her tears and looked at Zhou Yundong expectantly. When shopkeeper Pan saw that there was a customer, he hurriedly rushed forward and squeezed the little girl and her mother to the side. "Miss, if you want to buy flowers, come to my place to buy them. I have all kinds of flowers. Come and take a look. Mine are more than theirs. There are even big flowers. They are cheap and especially fragrant." Zhou Yundong hated him very much. She casually glanced at the flowers in his stall and said, "Those flowers of yours are withered. I feel my eyes hurt just by looking at them. Besides, I can tell at a glance that they are sick and about to die from bug bites. I won't pay a copper coin for them." Chapter 646. Find a rope. Zhou Yundong raised her voice. Shopkeeper Pan's expression changed when he heard that. The customers who were about to stop in front of his stall hurried to look at the next stall. Shopkeeper Pan was trembling with anger. He suddenly turned his head and glared at Zhou Yundong fiercely. "Do you know how to speak? If you don't want to buy it, then don't. Who asked you to spout nonsense and slander my flowers? You caused me such a huge loss. You have to compensate me with silver. Otherwise, I won't let you leave today." He saw that Zhou Yundong was a young girl with a heartless servant behind her. She seemed to be easy to bully. Moreover, because of the renovation of the shop, Zhou Yundong was dressed simply. It was obvious that she was not a young lady from a powerful family. Young ladies from wealthy families would not come here to buy flowers. Therefore, it should not be a problem to extort a few taels of silver. The flower seller panicked when she heard that. How can you do this? This sister didn't do anything wrong. Why should she compensate you with silver? It's between her and me now. It's not your place to interrupt. Get lost. Shopkeeper Pan glared at the young lady, then looked up at Jiyu Yundong provocatively. Jiyu Yundong smiled and said to Tong Shuidao, who was behind her, "Go find a rope." Tong Shuidao responded and ran away without saying a word. Shopkeeper Pan did not understand, but it did not matter. He just had to keep an eye on Jiyu Yundong and not let her leave. But Jiyu Yundong ignored him and continued talking to the young lady and her daughter. "How much are these flowers? I want to buy them all." All of them?" The little girl was very surprised. Could it be that she had met a big client today? "Miss, if you buy them all, we can give you a discount," the mother hurriedly said. She secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Finally, she did not have to keep her daughter under the sun on such a hot day. "Yes, calculate how much it will cost," Jiyu Yundong said. Shopkeeper Pan was instantly dissatisfied. "Stupid girl, did you hear me? You chased my guest away just now. Don't even think about leaving if you don't pay." Jiyu Yundong glanced at him and continued to talk to the mother and daughter. "Little sister, do you know how to plant flowers?" The young lady was probably around 10 years old. She looked obedient, but her love for flowers was exceptionally beautiful. She pursed her small lips and nodded slightly. Her mother said, "She does know a little. Her father used to be a gardener. Later, he fell down the hill while picking flowers, so his legs are no longer nimble. Therefore, he could only plant some flowers at home to sell. She has been by her father's side since she was young and likes them very much. She knows a lot. Miss, if you don't know how to raise flowers, feel free to ask." Jiyu Yundong really did not know much about raising flowers. In the past, she did not have the leisure to do so. Now, she did not either. She didn't know if Madame Yang could do it. Even if she liked flowers, she might not know how to take care of them. So, damn it, you actually don't take me seriously. Shopkeeper Pan was furious. His face was livid from their disregard. He raised his foot and kicked the pots of flowers. The young lady and her daughter's expressions changed drastically, but Jiyu Yundong quickly kicked his ankle. Shopkeeper Pan immediately took 2 steps back. He failed to kick down the potted plant and fell to the ground. **TCH. Before she could finish speaking, Tong Shuidao ran over. "Miss, the rope is here." Jiyu Yundong looked at the length and nodded in satisfaction. Then, she smiled and looked at Shopkeeper Pan. Chapter 647, Nightmare Reappears. Shopkeeper Pan looked at her malicious smile and felt a chill in his heart. For a moment, he regretted extorting her. But it was already too late. Jiyu Yundong signaled with her eyes, and Tong Shuidao strode forward. The rope in her hand shook violently, and under Shopkeeper Pan's puzzled gaze, she suddenly tied him up tightly. Shopkeeper Pan's eyes widened and he immediately struggled. "What are you doing? What are you doing? Let go. Help. Murder. Robbery." His high-pitched voice quickly attracted the attention of the people beside him. However, no one knew if it was because he was too unpopular or if no one believed that 2 young girls could deal with a man. In short, no one stepped forward to help. Instead, they laughed as if they were watching a show. "Boss Pan, who would dare to kill someone in broad daylight? Don't go too far and extort money from her. A little girl can tie you up like this. All of us saw it clearly just now. You were the one who stood there motionless and let the little girl tie you up." Someone even advised Tong Shuidao, "Miss, you have to be careful. In a while, he will lie down and let you pay." Tong Shuidao chuckled. "I'm not afraid." As she spoke, she tightened the rope and pulled Shopkeeper Pan, who was so angry that she almost bled from her 7 orifices, a few steps forward. Shopkeeper Pan staggered a few times. After a while, he stood under a big tree at the side. The tree was very tall. Shopkeeper Pan had wanted to set up the stall here to hide from the sun, but there were already many people occupying the shade under the tree. He did not dare to. Now that Tong Shuidao had pulled Shopkeeper Pan over, these people actually immediately moved aside without a word, making shopkeeper Pan so angry that he almost fainted. "Are you blind?" She attacked first and she wanted to rob. "If you don't save me today, don't blame me for turning a blind eye in the future." Tong Shuidao was extremely strong and threw the rope up the tree trunk. Shopkeeper Pan felt that her actions were a little familiar. He had a bad feeling. Sure enough, in the next moment, Tong Shuidao tightened the rope and lowered her hand. Shopkeeper Pan's tightly tied body was instantly pulled up and hung in the air. Shopkeeper Pan's face instantly turned pale. "Put me down. Quickly put me down. Help, I'm afraid of heights." Actually, he wasn't afraid in the past. After being hung up and beaten up by Xiao Qingyuan last time, he started to be afraid. Moreover, ever since then, he had been arrested and almost thrown into prison. If he hadn't sold his family's shop and put in a lot of effort, he might not have been able to come out. Now that this terrifying memory had surged into his mind again, shopkeeper Pan began to tremble. Tong Shuidao wrapped the rope around the tree trunk and tied it up. She clapped her hands and said, "I'm just enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens. Can't you do a good business? Why do you have to bully a little girl? It's fine, but you actually want my miss to compensate. What a joke. Her miss loved money. It was already good enough that she didn't ask you to compensate her. You still want to extort her? You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth." Shopkeeper Pan did not hear what she said at all. His legs fluttered in the air. "Put me down. I was wrong. Please spare me. Put me down quickly." Jiyu Yundong was a little surprised. Oh, there was finally something that was not unchanged. This guy knew how to beg for mercy. Unfortunately, it was too late. Jiyu Yundong ignored him and turned to ask the young lady and her daughter to help carry the flowers to the carriage outside. Chapter 648, Too Unpopular. The four of them each took 2 pots of flowers. After a few trips, the 20 potted plants were all moved. Shopkeeper Pan was still hanging from the tree. Not only did no one care about him or put him down, they even pointed at him and mocked him. Jiyu Yundong shook her head. It was rare for a person to be so unpopular. In the end, a man who wanted to continue enjoying the shade under the tree put him down. When shopkeeper Pan landed, his legs were weak, and his entire face was red. Soon, his face turned pale. After he regained his senses, he did not say anything and ignored everyone's teasing. He immediately packed up his potted plants in a hurry and left with his head buried. In short, he never appeared in the flower and bird market in that area again. Jiyu Yundong finished teaching shopkeeper Pan a lesson and bought the flowers. Then, she said to the little girl, "I bought these flowers for my mother, but I don't know if my mother knows how to take care of these flowers. If you do, can you come back with me and teach my mother for a couple of days?" The little girl was stunned and did not know how to answer. The mother was also a little stunned. It turned out that this customer had bought the flowers for her mother. This girl was filial, but, "Miss, if you don't mind, I'll go with Xiao Yuan. What do you think?" She was worried about letting her daughter go with a stranger, even if this stranger looked like a kind and friendly girl. Jiyu Yundong smiled. "Of course I don't mind." She let the mother and daughter get into the carriage before giving them the money to buy flowers. There were a total of 20 pots of flowers, some expensive and some cheap. It was about 5 taels of silver. The little girl called Xiao Yuan was still very happy. She looked at the silver with a glowing face. There were many flowers in the flower and bird market. There were more expensive flowers that were raised well. Those rich people naturally wanted to buy those famous flowers that were carefully nurtured. Flowers like hers seemed to be everywhere. Flowers that were neither up nor down were the most difficult to sell. Sometimes, she might not even sell 2 pots a day. Now that they had sold 20 pots in one go, today was a great harvest for them. Not to mention going to the customer's house to teach how to plant flowers. Even if they were asked to push all the flowers to the customer's house on a cart and arrange them one by one before watering them, they would be happy. Moreover, teaching others how to plant flowers was a very happy thing for Xiao Yuan. The mother and daughter sat in the carriage and looked at the potted plants reluctantly. The carriage drove into the south of the city and soon arrived at the area where Jiyu Yundong was. Xiao Yuan and her daughter were still a little nervous. They were from the Xuanhe prefecture. Although they didn't live in a good place, they knew that this was a place where scholars lived. They heard that the prices of houses were high, and the people coming and going were all students. They were especially polite, and it was a place that people yearned for and respected. The carriage quickly stopped at the door of the courtyard. Xiao Yuan and her mother got out of the carriage and felt that the clean street was completely different from the flower and bird market. They instantly became reserved. Jiyu Yundong had already pushed open the courtyard door. When she looked up, she saw Madame Yang. Madame Yang, who was sitting in the courtyard, looked at Yunke writing in a daze. She still had a sewing basket in her hand. Previously, when she was in Yongfu village, she had learned embroidery from Shen for a period of time. She had even embroidered a few pieces of handkerchief that made her feel a sense of accomplishment. Jiyu Yundong had thought that she liked it very much, but now he realized that it was not the case. Chapter 649, like Jiyu Yundong looked at Madame Yang, whose eyes were completely unfocused, indicating that she did not want to embroider a handkerchief at all. She suddenly felt a little sad. She exhaled slowly and called out with a smile, "Mother." Madame Yang suddenly turned around and immediately welcomed them happily. "Dong dong, dong dong, you're back?" Then, she saw Xiao Yuan and her mother following behind. She tilted her head curiously and asked, "Who are they?" Jiyu Yunke also put down the pen in her hand and quickly ran over to hug her thigh. She also tilted her head and looked at them curiously. The mother and daughter's identical cute actions instantly gave Xiao Yuan and her daughter an indescribable strange feeling. Jiyu Yundong stroked little Yunke's head and looked at Madame Yang. "Mother, I went out today and bought you a gift. See if you like it." "I like it." Madame Yang immediately nodded before she could see it. Little Yunke joined in the fun. "I like it too." Jiyu Yundong was amused by the two of them. "I'll bring you to take a look." She led the two of them out of the courtyard. The carriage was still parked outside. As soon as Tong Shuidao lifted the curtain, Madame Yang was instantly attracted by the neatly arranged flowers. Looking at those bright colors, her eyes instantly lit up. Jiyu Yundong heaved a sigh of relief. Indeed, her mother liked it very much. "Mother, these are the flowers I bought today. Can you take care of them in the future? Xiao Yuan and her mother are over there. These flowers were bought from them. If you don't know how to take care of them, you can get Xiao Yuan to teach you." Madame Yang glanced at Xiao Yuan and smiled happily. "Okay. Come, let's move the flowers in first." As soon as Jiyu Yundong finished speaking, Madame Yang impatiently climbed into the carriage and moved the potted plants over. There were many people in the family. With the help of the 4 members of the Lu family, it did not take long to move all the flowers. Madame Yang was really happy. She looked around the courtyard and personally placed the potted plants. Then, she pulled Xiao Yuan and started asking questions. Only then did Xiao Yuan realize that Madame Yang was different from ordinary people. She was like a child. She would even argue with her youngest daughter when she asked questions. She would even be smug when she won. Jiyu Yundong saw that Madame Yang's face was covered in dirt, but the smile on her face was very bright. She felt relieved. She turned around and went into the study. She did not know anything about planting flowers, but when she was looking for books on fruits last time, she had seen some knowledge points about planting flowers. It was not much, but it might be useful. Jiyu Yundong took out a pen and paper and took out the book from the spatial storage. She flipped through it carefully. There were indeed some methods that were suitable for this era. She copied these down and could show them to her mother later. She could study them, especially in terms of grafting. The book was a little thick and Jiyu Yundong spent a lot of time looking through it. From time to time, laughter could be heard in the courtyard. By the time she went out, it was already past 3 p.m. She asked Xiao Yuan and her daughter to stay for dinner, but they rejected her. "Her father is still waiting for us at home. I'm afraid he'll be worried if we go back too late." Jiyu Yundong did not force her. She got Tong Shuidao to prepare the carriage and send them back. She also planned to go with them. She wanted to go to the shop and take a look. She also planned to take a look at the notice wall with eldest aunt and the others' portraits. Unexpectedly, just as she opened the courtyard door, she bumped into Jiyu Dajiang. Jiyu Yundong looked down. When she saw what he was holding, she could not help but laugh. Chapter 650, Tacit understanding between father and daughter. Jiyu Dajiang was also holding a pot of flowers. The lush crepe myrtle flowers on the branches were especially pleasing to the eye. The potted plant was a little big. When Jiyu Dajiang carried it back, his clothes were wrinkled and dirty. "Father, did you buy this for my mother?" Jiyu Yundong thought that she and her father really had a tacit understanding. They even sent flowers at the same time. Jiyu Dajiang laughed dryly and said in embarrassment, "On the way back, I bumped into someone selling these flowers, so I bought a pot for your mother. What do you think? Does it look good?" Actually, that was not the case. This flower originally belonged to the academy and was specially managed by a gardener. Jiyu Dajiang had wanted to buy a few pots 2 days ago, but the gardener didn't agree. He said that he couldn't make the decision. Today, the supervisor returned. Jiyu Dajiang went straight to the supervisor and asked him before finally bringing back a pot. Initially, he thought that if the supervisor did not agree, he would take Madame Yang to the market tomorrow to see if there were any flowers that suited her taste. However, when Jiyu Yundong looked at him meaningfully, he subconsciously found an excuse and changed the topic stiffly. "Are you going out? It's already so late. Why are you still going out?" Then, he saw the unfamiliar mother and daughter behind her and was slightly stunned. "These two are. I invited them to help." Jiyu Yundong smiled and did not say what they were helping with. "Father, I'll send Xiao Yuan and her mother home first. Hurry in and give my mother a surprise." As Jiyu Yundong spoke, she called Xiao Yuan and her mother into the carriage. Jiyu Dajiang felt that she was very strange, especially the smile before she left. It was as if she was gloating. But he quickly threw it to the back of his mind, looking at the crepe myrtle flower in his hand. His mood soared. He was waiting to see Liu Niang's happy expression. As he thought about it, he said as he entered, "Liu Niang, when I came back today, I saw a pot of pretty flowers." Halfway through his sentence, he stopped. Jiyu Dajiang looked at the 20 potted plants in the courtyard in shock, as well as Madame Yang, who was squatting in front of the potted plants with a dirty face and didn't even raise her head. Not only her, even Yunke was carefully watering the potted plants, looking very happy. It was as if the mother and daughter did not hear him come back and were immersed in their own little world. He almost couldn't hold the potted plant in his hand. It was Lu Sheng who carefully stepped forward and took the thing in his hand. After a long while, Jiyu Dajiang slowly turned to look at the door, but Jiyu Yundong was long gone. No wonder. No wonder she gave him a meaningful look before she left. This girl was actually waiting for him here. She actually made fun of her father. Jiyu Yundong sat in the carriage and smiled. Xiao Yuan and her mother looked at each other in disbelief. Looking at the student canon Jiyu Dajiang was wearing, he should be this family's scholar. To them, scholars were very serious and needed respect, even if this person was a relative, a father, or an elder brother. The moment they saw Jiyu Dajiang, the two of them immediately became reserved. However, the interaction between Lady Jiyu and her father was too casual. In fact, it was even more casual than that of an ordinary family. When Jiyu Yundong was done laughing, she slowly calmed down. Coincidentally, the carriage passed by the notice board. Jiyu Yundong did not get out of the carriage. She only glanced at the portraits on the notice wall. Chapter 651, Stop right there. Fortunately, this time, the portrait was clearly stuck to the wall and was not covered by the other portraits. Hopefully, those who had seen eldest aunt and the others would be able to see these portraits. There was a sea of people, so it was really too difficult to find them. She didn't know which direction eldest aunt and the rest had gone. She had gotten people to paste portraits in a few places in the Xuanhe Prefecture, Qingan Prefecture and Wanqing Prefecture, and she had also gotten people to pay attention to them, but there was still no news. She was afraid that they had not survived that unforeseen event. There was no news. Perhaps it was good news. Jiyu Yundong lowered the curtain and said to Tong Shuidao, who was driving outside, "Let's go." The carriage started moving again, But Xiao Yuan could clearly feel that Jiyu Yundong was in a bad mood. It was not appropriate for her to ask anything. She sat there obediently and thought for a while before saying, "Sister Jiyu, I won't go to your house tomorrow." "Huh? Why not?" Jiyu Yundong came back to her senses and was distracted. Xiao Yuan said, "I've taught her everything that needs to be taught. Aunt actually has a lot of experience in raising flowers. She understands some of the things she has to pay attention to after I explain them once. Moreover, with Sister Hongxiu and the others around, there won't be a problem." Jiyu Yundong nodded. "All right, thank you for your hard work today." "Not at all. Sister Jiyu bought all our flowers. I'm so happy." Xiao Yuan smiled until her eyes narrowed into a line. "By the way, I still have some flower seeds at home. Sister Jiyu, do you want them?" Of course. Her mother would definitely like to plant flowers from the beginning. It would give her a sense of accomplishment to watch those seeds germinate and turn from small buds into flowers. After Jiyu Yundong sent Xiao Yuan and her mother back to their house, she picked a lot of flower seeds at her house. She also saw Xiao Yuan's father. His legs were indeed inconvenient. He could only walk around the courtyard with his walking stick. If he walked too far, he would not be able to take it. However, he really planted a lot of flowers. It was obvious from the fact that the courtyard was filled with more than 10 flower racks. When Jiyu Yundong entered the courtyard, it was as if she was in a garden. It was very beautiful. After giving Xiao Yuan the money for the flower seeds, she quickly came out with Tong Shuidao. Tong Shuidao was still a little emotional. "Actually, I quite like Xiao Yuan's family. Look at her father. He's already in such a state, but he's still working so hard to take good care of those flowers. He can even use them to earn money and maintain the family. He's much better than those people who give up on themselves after getting a little sick." Jiyu Yundong leaned against the carriage door and smiled. "Yes, that's why Xiao Yuan is so loving." Tong Shuidao chuckled. At the thought that Miss still had to go to the shop to take a look, she could not help but speed up. However, just as the carriage was about to leave the alley, a word suddenly floated past her ears. "Gus." Tong Shuidao was stunned. She could not help but slow down and look at the few people who were talking about Gus. Jiyu Yundong heard it too. She immediately lifted the curtain and looked out. The voice was already far away, but Jiyu Yundong could still see the back of the person who spoke. "Miss." Tong Shuidao looked at Jiyu Yundong. The latter asked her to stop the carriage and jumped down from it. She looked at the few people who were slowly walking away and shouted, "Those in front, stop right there." The few people who were talking were stunned. At first, they did not realize that she was calling out to them. One of them turned around and exclaimed when he saw Jiyu Yundong, "It's you? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 652, Capturing Jiyu Yundong as a hostage. When the others heard the sound, they immediately turned around. Jiyu Yundong finally saw their faces clearly. She narrowed her eyes and said, "It's indeed you." These people were the local hooligans who had come to her new shop that day to cause trouble and extort money before being taken away by Zhu Dafu. She did not expect to see them here. The moment the local hooligan saw her, he immediately thought of the experience of being kicked out of the door by Xiao Qingyuan and not being able to get up for a long time. His body subconsciously reacted and wanted to escape. However, with his underlings by his side, he could not lose face. Hence, with his powerful self-control, he finally nailed his legs to the ground and did not move. Then, he realized that the man was not around today. Not only was he not around, but the other man was also not around. There were only 2 women standing in front of him. 2 weak-looking women, and there were so many of them. What was there to be afraid of? He immediately walked forward like a hooligan and stood in front of Jiyu Yundong. "Oh, it's you. We meet again. We're really fated." Seeing this, the surrounding people did not dare to go forward, but they still shouted from afar, "Miss, run quickly. These people are not good people. F***ck, you're calling me a bad person in front of me?" The leader of the local gang turned around to look, but the person who spoke had long disappeared. The local hooligan snorted. He turned around and brushed his hair at Jiu Yundong. Miss, don't listen to their nonsense. We're all good people. Yes, yes, yes. We're all good people. The others immediately echoed and laughed. Jiu Yundong only looked at the leader and asked, I heard you talking about Gus just now. What happened to Gus? Gus was indeed her shop in Fengkai County. The shop here had not been renovated and the plaque was still being made. Therefore, the Gus that these people mentioned should be from the county. The head laughed even more wildly when he heard that. Oh, so you heard what we said. Oh, right. You seem to own Gus, right? I heard that the shop we saw that day was also called Gus, right? Jiu Yundong narrowed her eyes. You really know. Why? Did you ask about us? What did you find out? Jiu Yundong felt that with the current inconvenient traffic, even if they investigated, they would only be able to find a limited amount. The leader chuckled and touched his chin. You want to know? Sure, I'll tell you. However, I can't do it for nothing. You have to give me some face, right? As they spoke, a few local hooligans had already come forward and blocked Jiu Yundong's path. Tong Shuidao had never seen these local hooligans, but from their conversation, she could tell that they did not come with good intentions. Hence, she raised her chin slightly and naturally stood in front of Jiu Yundong. She asked, What do you want? Do you want silver? Silver? Of course I want it, but it's not enough. The local hooligans laughed. Your carriage is not bad. You are not bad either. The few of them surrounded them in the middle. Tong Shuidao frowned. Could it be that you dare to rob us in broad daylight? You probably don't know that this area is our territory. Even if you're robbed, no one will dare to speak, understand? Not only did he want to rob, but he also wanted to take revenge. After capturing these two women, he could threaten the man who had beaten him to come knocking on his door. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 653. This must be an illusion. The local hooligan had a beautiful plan. He could not help but lick his lips and look at Jiu Yundong with a burning gaze. However, there was Tong Shuidao in front of him, so he couldn't get close. He simply changed his target and reached out a hand to touch Tong Shuidao's face. The onlookers were furious but did not dare to go forward. After all, they all lived nearby. If you interfered today, these local hooligans would come to your house to cause trouble for your family tomorrow. The other local hooligans laughed as if they were watching a good show. However, just as the leader's hand was about to touch Tong Shuidao's face, Tong Shuidao suddenly reached out, grabbed his finger, and pressed it back fiercely. Ah, the leader screamed, his entire face contorting in pain. You still dare to tease me? Tong Shuidao snorted coldly and kicked the leader away. Not only did she kick him out, but she also went forward to beat him up. The others were stunned by this change. One of the local hooligans reacted quickly and rushed forward to help. However, not only was Tong Shuidao strong, but she also had martial arts now. Although it was just fancy moves to a true expert, it was more than enough to deal with a few hooligans. The local hooligan who rushed up to help did not even have time to react before he was directly knocked down. The others instantly stopped in their tracks, not daring to move forward. However, when someone saw Jiu Yundong standing there motionless, he ran towards her without thinking. As he ran, he said, You stop. Otherwise, I won't be polite to her. Tong Shuidao turned around and took a look. Before she could say anything, the local hooligan who wanted to hold Jiu Yundong hostage was thrown to the ground. The onlookers, the local hooligans, shopkeeper Pan, who was gloating in the corner and wanted to watch the show, was also speechless. Shopkeeper Pan happened to pass by and saw Jiu Yundong and the others surrounded by the local hooligans. He secretly thought that they were finally unlucky this time. He was just waiting to see them make a fool of themselves. He did not expect so many men to be unable to defeat a woman. Shopkeeper Pan's body trembled. He lowered his head and walked away silently, determined that when he saw these two women in the future, he would definitely avoid them. They were too terrifying. Jiyu Yundong looked at the other two local hooligans who also wanted to attack her and asked, "Can we talk nicely now?" "Obviously not." The two tyrants looked at each other and rushed forward. Jiyu Yundong frowned. She turned to the side to avoid one of the men's hands and punched the other man in the stomach. Then, she turned around and kicked the other man to the ground. In an instant, 3 people lay on the ground. Coupled with the 2 people on Tong Shuetao's side, the 5 local hooligans did not even have the chance to resist. As for Jiyu Yundong and Tong Shuedao, their hair was not even messy. The local hooligans were dumbfounded. The leader looked at the 2 of them in horror. They were women, right? They looked weak, right? How could they crush the 5 of them without blinking? This had to be an illusion. He was dreaming. But Jiyu Yundong was already walking towards him. To the local leader, Jiyu Yundong was like a demon who was here to take his soul. Help! Why did he want to cause trouble for the 2 of them previously? He wanted to run, but just as he was about to stand up, a sharp pain came from his ankle, causing him to fall back again. Jiyu Yundong squatted in front of him. "Can you answer my question properly? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 654. The Zhou family's plan. These people were just asking for a beating. They had to suffer a beating before they were willing to cooperate obediently. It was unknown if they were fond of being physically abused. As expected, the boss nodded hurriedly. "Please ask. Since you guys went to Gus, what did you find out?" The boss swallowed his saliva. His answer was exceptionally concise. "We didn't ask around. It was Steward Zhou from the Zhou mansion who told us about Miss Family." As he spoke, he looked at her carefully. Steward Zhou said that Miss Family only came from a small county city below. She doesn't have any status or background. She opened a shop in the county city called Gus. Now that her business has expanded, she plans to open a shop in the prefectural city. Apart from these, is there anything else? The boss hurriedly shook his head. No, Steward Zhou only said that Miss doesn't have any backing. This was enough. Moreover, in just a few days, the information he could obtain was really limited. At most, he knew that Jiyu Yundong had opened a shop in the countryside and had a few family members. They probably did not even find out that Jiyu Yundong was once a refugee, right? Jiyu Yundong understood and nodded thoughtfully. The boss quickly said, I've said everything I know. Can we leave now? One more question. Go ahead." Jiyu Yundong narrowed his eyes. "Since Steward Zhou found out and told you, does that mean that he wants you to do something? To find trouble with us?" The boss' heart skipped a beat. Oh my god, why was this girl so smart? It was too scary. He quickly shook his head. No, we don't dare anymore. Answer the question." "Yes, that's the plan. But isn't your shop still being renovated recently? Steward Zhou asked us to cause trouble on the day you open business." The more he spoke, the lower his voice became. Soon, he raised his head and promised, "But don't worry, we won't go." Really? Who would dare to go? These 2 girls were skilled. That day, when the man hit them, it was even more painful. No matter how many local hooligans they had, they would still be serving themselves to those people like food. Why? Steward Zhou did not give them much money. Jiyu Yundong knew what was going on. She looked at the local hooligan who was trying his best to squeeze out a smile and said, "No need. Just come over on the day of the opening." Her. Jiyu Yundong's gaze was dangerous. "I told you to come over. Don't worry, I won't hit you." Jiyu Yundong narrowed her eyes when she saw that his eyes were darting around. He definitely did not intend to listen to her. "If you don't come, I'll settle scores with you later." The local hooligan was speechless. He had never seen anyone who was in a hurry to invite trouble to themselves. Was this girl crazy? "If you come, you can still earn some money from Steward Zhou." Isn't that good? When the local hooligan heard this, he realized that it made sense. Anyway, this girl had promised not to hit them. They could still earn some money. Why not? Besides, when the time came, they would stand far away and just pretend to be there. He was dreaming. Jiyu Yundong sneered and finally stood up. All right, our shop will open in 4 days. Remember to come. With that, she left with Tong Shuidao. As soon as she got into the carriage, Tong Shuidao couldn't help but ask, Miss, the steward Zhou that person mentioned is the person who came to cause trouble for our shop last time? Wanna gift the story? Try one. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 655. Father, please help. Yes, it's that Zhou mansion. Tong Shuidao tightened her grip on the reins. That steward Zhou is too much. Didn't he find trouble last time? He actually went to inquire about our background and even wanted to ruin the good day of our shop opening. This dog. Jiyu Yundong smiled. I don't know if it's steward Zhou's idea or old master Zhou's. Miss, then let's just go to the Zhou mansion. Be it steward Zhou or old master Zhou, we'll beat them up first. Jiyu Yundong sighed. Why are you so violent at such a young age? Tong Shuidao felt wronged. Actually, she had not been like this in the past. Ever since she followed Miss, she had beaten people up many times. She could not be blamed. Yes, she could not be blamed. Miss, what should we do? Prepare to open for business. Jiyu Yundong stretched, but her tone was relaxed. However, Tong Shuidao was confused. Were they going to ignore it just like that? Of course, it was not that she did not care. Jiyu Yundong knew that even if she dealt with Zhu Dafu today, there would still be Li Dafu or Zhao Dafu eyeing her covetously. In the eyes of these people, she was just a small fry from the countryside with no foundation or background. In business, she was just a small fry that should be taught a lesson as an example. Especially since her shop was in a good location now. When she made a huge profit in the future, she would probably be even more eye-catching. At that time, people who were even more powerful than Zhu Dafu would definitely target her. Since that was the case, it was better to get rid of the problem in one go. The carriage went to the shop. Jiyu Yundong looked at the progress of the renovation. It was almost done. They could clean it up and let it dry for a few days tomorrow. The good day for opening would be 4 days later. The goods that Xiao Qingyuan was transporting would arrive tomorrow. The publicity work could begin. Feng Daning had wanted to go back after finishing his work, but Jiyu Yundong asked him to stay. Anyway, they could live in the small courtyard behind the shop, and Zheng Gang was staying here now. On the day of the opening, when others saw the renovation of the shop, they would definitely ask who the master was, which could help Feng Daning with his business. When Feng Daning heard this, he instantly gave up on the idea of going back. He even began to get excited and rubbed his palms together, waiting for the day of the opening. Even the 2 carpenters who came with him were excited, as if many people had already taken a fancy to their skills. They were preparing to take on business. After looking at the shop, Jiyu Yundong brought Tong Shuidao home. The courtyard was very lively. Not only was Madame Yang looking at the flowers, but even Jiyu Dajiang was squatting at the side to help her plant them. His face was dirty, and his new clothes were dragging on the ground. There were 2 footprints, one big and one small, on them. They had probably been caused by Madame Yang and Yunke. Jiyu Yundong rubbed his forehead and asked Jiyu Dajiang, Father, don't you have to do your homework? It's holiday tomorrow. I'll take a break tonight. It was important to do homework, but it was also important to accompany his wife. It was rare for Liu Niang to be so happy. How could he read quietly in the study alone? It was also necessary to relax appropriately. Jiyu Yundong's eyes lit up. Father, are you on holiday tomorrow? Yes, why? Jiyu Yundong chuckled. That's good. You can help me. With what? Jiyu Dajiang stood up and patted the dirt off his body. He said bluntly, just tell me. I can help you with anything. It was rare for his eldest daughter to ask for his help. Even if he had to climb a mountain of swords or go through a sea of flames, he had to do it. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 656. Adorable Flier Zhou Yundong could not help but twitch her lips when she saw how serious he was and how eager he was to go all out. Actually, it was not that difficult. It just took some time. The next day, Jiyu Yundong woke up early and handed a piece of paper to Jiyu Dajiang. Father, isn't the shop about to open? After all, this is the first shop we've established in the prefectural city. No matter what, we have to advertise it, right? That's why I specially drew a flyer yesterday. Look, you happen to be on holiday today. Help me draw a few more. Is this what you want me to help with? Jiyu Dajiang took the so-called flyer from her hand suspiciously. A cute little child was drawn on a small piece of paper. The child was holding a large can in his hand. There was also a small bamboo basket tied to his waist, and a few dried fruits fell out. This little child was cute. He had a big head and a small body. He looked very different from the children in reality, but he was very cute. Furthermore, it was very eye-catching. Even one's heart would soften at a glance. Especially since the child was still drooling at the corner of his mouth. His eyes were wide with desire as he looked at the canned food in his hand. He looked like he was drooling, as if the canned food was a delicacy. It made people subconsciously swallow their saliva. It looked very appetizing. Jiyu Dajiang couldn't help but want to buy it when he saw it. Furthermore, there were words written beside the little person in the new shop. Anyone who spends more than a tael of silver will be given a delicious preserved fruit. It was simple and straightforward. Many people would probably enter the shop for this portion of dried fruit. 1 tael of silver was too precious to the old Jiyu Dajiang. How many good things could he buy? He couldn't bear to use it to buy snacks. However, in the prefectural city, based on the classmates Jiyu Dajiang had known over the past 2 days, many people came from good families. They often went to restaurants for a meal that cost 10 to 20 taels. Moreover, he had also heard many people discussing the canned food they had bought at Jinxiu restaurant. To these students, this thing had actually become one of the signs proving if they had connections. There was also an address written under the flyer. Although many people might not know how to read, it was fine as long as they could understand the picture. If they did not know how to read, they could ask others. Jiyu Dajiang felt that his daughter was really smart to think of such publicity. He immediately nodded and said, "All right, leave it to me. I'll draw as many as you want." I think that most people in the prefecture capital are certain that the canned food in Jinxiu restaurant is the most authentic. We will definitely place some flyers at Jinxiu restaurant. I've discussed this with Master Dao before. The rest will be distributed at the main streets. Oh right, we should also distribute some at the entrance of your academy. Before Jiyu Yundong could finish speaking, Jiyu Dajiang's hand could not help but tremble. How many pictures did he have to draw? Father, what's wrong? Jiyu Dajiang shook his head firmly. It's nothing. I'll draw it now. There was still a long way to go. It seemed that he could not accompany his wife and daughter out. He had to help Yundong settle this matter first. Jiyu Yundong had never thought that Jiyu Dajiang would draw all of them himself. Today was a break, and he had to return to the academy tomorrow. There were so many students in the academy, right? It was necessary to make the best use of the students. Just as she was thinking, Madame Yang and Aunt Ku's voices came from the courtyard. Aunt Ku was here. Jiyu Yundong's eyes lit up and she hurried out. She had something to discuss with Aunt Ku. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 657, Simply a Tragedy. Although Aunt Ku had been coming to the GU residence every day for the past few days, she would still return to her own courtyard at night. When Jiyu Yundong came out, she had just put down the basket in her hand. There were some dates in the basket. They were bright red and looked very sweet. Aunt Ku handed the basket to Madame Niu. When she looked up and saw Jiyu Yundong looking at her, she raised her eyebrows. What's the matter? Are you looking for me? Aunt is still so smart. Don't flatter me. Aunt Ku glanced at her from the corner of her eye, then stroked little Yunki's head. She stuffed a date into her mouth. After hearing the girl sweetly call her aunt, she retracted her hand in satisfaction and said to Jiyu Yundong, speak. Jiyu Yundong led her inside. As they walked, she told her what happened yesterday. After Aunt Ku heard this, she asked, "You want me to go to the Nai family to find someone to support you?" Jiyu Yundong chuckled and walked behind her to massage her shoulders. "Aunt Ku, you've always pitted us siblings. You know that it hasn't been easy for me. Opening a shop and doing business is like fighting a war. It's especially difficult, especially since I have no backing or background and can only fight alone from scratch. It's simply a tragedy. You're wise and mighty. Stop, shut up. Your hypocritical words give me a headache." Tragedy? She had never seen anyone do business like her. How long had it been? Her shop had already arrived in the prefectural city and was doing business with the imperial court. How could this be called fighting alone without a background? Who would believe her? Jiyu Yundong coughed lightly. "I'm telling the truth. I really don't have any foundation in the prefectural city. I only know Nai Tsong in the Nai family. Even though I send something to the Nai family during the new year, how many people in the Nai family know of my existence? But Nai Tsong isn't in the Xuanhe prefecture, so I'll have to trouble you, Aunt." Aunt Ku glanced at her. "All right, I understand. I'll go look for the Nai family. Actually, there's no need to find a young miss or young master. Just find a steward who often walks outside. Those people might not know the young miss and young master of the Nai family, but they were more familiar with the steward." Aunt Ku snorted. I know what I'm doing." Jiyu Yundong immediately massaged her shoulders even harder. Aunt Ku frowned and despised her. Go. You're just a young lady. Why are you so strong? My bones are about to be crushed by you. Go away and bring Kikin. I don't need you." Jiyu Yundong was speechless. She was not very strong, right? Compared to Tong Shuidao, she was far weaker. Sigh, this was the disadvantage of being old. If she was not fragrant and soft enough, she would be despised. Therefore, Jiyu Yundong let go of her. She ran to the courtyard and picked up little Yunke, who was eating. She carried her into the central room and stuffed her into Aunt Ku's arms. Little Yunke was dumbfounded. She looked at her eldest sister blankly and then at Aunt Ku behind her. What happened? Jiyu Yundong had already turned around and left. She still had many things to do. Aunt Ku rested at the Jiyu residence for about an hour before she planned to make a trip to the Nai family. Jiyu Yundong asked Tong Shuidao to drive her there. Aunt Ku did not refuse. The journey to the Nai family was not short. Just as she got into the carriage and walked out of the alley, a group of people turned around from another direction and entered the alley. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 658. A large group. Aunt Ku only vaguely heard a commotion behind her and lifted the curtain to take a look. She didn't care and only told Tong Shuidao to speed up. Tong Shuidao responded. They happened to reach the wide road. She shook the reins and the horse broke into a trot. Unexpectedly, after running for a few steps, another carriage rushed over from the opposite side. The two carriages almost collided. Fortunately, Tong Shuidao was sharp and quick-witted. The other party was also an experienced driver. At the same time, they turned their horses to the left and right separately, narrowly avoiding a collision. However, when they brushed past each other, Tong Shuidao saw the other party's appearance clearly. She hurriedly grabbed the reins and stopped the carriage with a whoosh. The other party also saw her and stopped. Aunt Ku, who was in the carriage, had just accidentally bumped into the ceiling and had just sat down. Just as she lifted the curtain of the carriage, she heard a familiar and irritable voice coming from the other party's carriage. What's going on? You can't even drive the carriage steadily. Tell me, what's the use of you? Do you know that I hit my head just now and almost disfigured myself? Aunt Ku immediately smiled. Young Master Liu is still so energetic. The other party was stunned for a moment. Soon, the curtain of the carriage was lifted, and Liu Wei's big head suddenly popped out. There was still a grimace on his face. When he saw that it was Aunt Ku, he immediately smiled. Aunt, where are you going? I'm going to do something. Are you here to look for Yundong and Qingyuan? Who else? Liu Wei snorted coldly and was a little dissatisfied. Do you think they're not kind enough? I'm such a good friend with them, but they actually came to the prefectural city to open a shop without telling me. If our shopkeeper hadn't sent me a letter, I wouldn't have known. I have to settle the score with them. All of them are inhumane. Aunt Ku actually nodded in agreement. Indeed, then go. Remember to teach them a lesson and let them know how powerful you are. It's best if they cry and beg for your forgiveness. Liu Wei, Aunt, you're too ruthless. Tell me, did you fall out with the Zhou family and want me to charge forward as a borrowed knife? He laughed dryly. Well, it's not that serious. Let's just teach them a lesson. Aunt, don't you have something to do? Go ahead. I'll go to the Zhou family now. Goodbye. After saying that, he hurriedly instructed Liu An, who was driving, let's go. Aunt Ku looked at the departing carriage and shook her head. Coward Liu, you're the young master of the Liu family after all. Can you have some backbone? Even if you're angry, you have to look angry, right? Liu Wei only heaved a sigh of relief after walking for a long time. The carriage slowed as they entered the alley. However, because of this, he could clearly hear the conversation of the people by the roadside in the alley. Did you see that? A large group of people went in just now. I heard that they went to look for Jiyu Dajiang. Who do you think they are? How would I know? They don't look friendly. They are most likely here to cause trouble. No way. The Jiyu family has only moved in for a few days. Why would they provoke so many people? Why not? We don't even know the background of the Jiyu family. How would we know who thief offended? That's true. I heard that the Jiyu family came from Fengkai County. They might not be familiar with this prefectural city and have offended some rich and powerful family. When Liu Wei heard this, he panicked and hurriedly called Liu An, quick. Hurry up and go to the Jiyu residence to take a look. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 659, Encountering a Problem. Liu Wei's carriage soon arrived at the Jiyu family's main entrance. Indeed, there were more than 20 people outside the Jiyu family's courtyard gate. They were all men of different ages and looked like they were really looking for trouble. Liu Wei hurriedly got down from the carriage, stretched out his hand, and shouted, "Hey, what are you doing? Are you surrounding someone else's house and looking for trouble?" A group of people was standing at the door to confirm if this was Jiyu Dajiang's house. Just as they were about to knock on the door, they suddenly heard a voice behind them. They were so frightened that they trembled and looked back in unison. Liu Wei had already rushed forward and squeezed through them to stand in front of the Jiyu family's door. He stretched out his hand to block the door. "Who are you? What do you want to do? Who are you, brother?" The one who spoke was Zhou Guang. He couldn't help but frown when he saw how protective Liu Wei was. This group of people were the students of the Tianhai Academy. There were more than 20 of them in total. It was just that today was a break and they were not wearing the student uniform, so they looked like people who had come to find trouble. The leader was Qi Ting. When he saw Liu Wei acting like a master, he couldn't help but size him up. Liu Wei raised his chin slightly. "What are you doing? I'm with the Jiyu family. Who are you? Tell me your names. If you're here to cause trouble, you have to." Ouch. Before he could finish speaking, the courtyard door at the back was opened. Liu Wei, who was originally leaning against the courtyard door, lost his balance and fell straight back. Qi Ting's eyes were sharp. He immediately saw the little Jiyu Yunker standing behind Liu Wei. Seeing that Liu Wei was about to crush her, his expression immediately changed. He rushed forward and pushed Liu Wei away. He picked up Jiyu Yunker, whose eyes were wide open. Liu Wei didn't fall back after being pushed like this. Instead, he staggered and hit the door at the side. There was a bang on his head, and Lu Sheng, who was reaching out to help him steady himself, was so frightened that his body trembled. Liu Wei was supported and finally managed to stabilize himself. He immediately wanted to curse. F***ck, F***ck, it was in the same spot as the carriage just now. It hurt so much. He immediately stood up and glared at Qi Ting. "You're courting death." Qi Ting raised his eyebrows and said expressionlessly, "If I hadn't pushed you just now, you would have fallen to the ground. At that time, your head would have been split into two." Liu Wei, he couldn't help but shiver. When Jiyu Yundong and Jiyu Dajiang heard the sound outside, they immediately came out to take a look. At first glance, she saw Liu Wei. "Why are you here?" Liu Wei heaved a sigh of relief and steadied himself. He looked at her and said, "You still have the cheek to ask me. You came to the prefectural city to open a shop, but you didn't tell me. You don't treat me as a friend, right?" Jiyu Yundong turned her head decisively and looked at Qi Ting, who was still carrying Jiyu Yunke. "Why are you here?" "Liu Wei, break ties, break ties." Qi Ting put down the little girl, coughed lightly, and said, "I just came to take a look." "We also came to take a look." Voices suddenly came from the door. Jiyu Yundong was shocked. She looked over and realized that there were more than 20 students standing outside the courtyard. A few of them looked especially familiar. Jiyu Dajiang hurriedly walked over and warmly welcomed all his classmates in. Liu Wei felt like he had been dealt a critical blow. He looked at Jiyu Yundong bitterly. Jiyu Yundong could not ignore it even if she wanted to. She could only turn her head and sigh. "It's good that you're here. I just encountered a difficult problem." "What problem?" Liu Wei instantly perked up. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 660. The acting begins. Jiyu Yundong glanced at him, then at the 20 students, and sighed heavily. Then, she shook her head and left in distress. Everyone was speechless. What the hell was going on? After Jiyu Yundong entered, everyone could only look at Jiyu Dajiang. Liu Wei and Qi Ting, who had almost quarreled at the door, asked in unison, "What happened?" After saying that, they looked at each other in disdain and snorted. Jiyu Dajiang laughed dryly. He didn't know what his daughter was up to. He had been chatting happily with Yundong just now and didn't find anything difficult. Other than those flyers being too many, huh? No way. Jiyu Dajiang looked at the students present and somewhat understood what Yundong was up to. "Uncle Jiyu, tell us. I will definitely help if I can." Liu Wei was anxious. "Is there not enough money to open the shop, or is someone bullying you?" No. Jiyu Dajiang quickly waved his hand. "Anyway, everyone, come in and have a cup of tea. Don't stand outside." As he spoke, he asked Lu Sheng to bring everyone inside and asked, "By the way, why are you all here today? Is there anything?" He was asking the 20-odd classmates. Liu Wei had already run in to look for Jiyu Yundong. He was on good terms with Jiyu Yundong and went to ask her directly. These students stood in the central room obediently. There were too many people, and not enough stools at home. Madame Niu had already run to the neighbor's house to borrow stools. They couldn't help but look at each other when they heard Jiyu Dajiang's question. Among these students, other than the ones who had a good relationship with Qi Ting, there were also the students from whom Jiyu Dajiang had taken the 20 paintings when he first went to the Tianhai Academy for Jiyu Yundong to guide. On today's break, they decided to visit Jiyu Dajiang together. Firstly, it was to nurture the relationship between classmates. Secondly, it was to invite him out for a walk. At the same time, everyone brought their paintings and asked him to help guide them. However, before they could say their purpose, they heard the lady say that her family was facing a problem. This time, they were too embarrassed to speak. And Qi Ting's goal was the canned food. He wasn't in the academy a few days ago, so he didn't meet Jiyu Dajiang. He only returned to the Fate Hut last night. Coincidentally, he heard that these people were planning to come to the Jiyu family today, so he quickly followed. Everyone was chatting and drinking tea. They thought that since the Jiyu family had something on, should they take their leave and come back another day? Unexpectedly, an exclamation suddenly came from inside. "What did you say?" It was Liu Wei's voice. Everyone could not help but look in the direction of the study. Jiyu Dajiang quickly apologized to everyone. "Everyone, take a seat. I'll go take a look." After saying that, he immediately walked towards the study. Qi Ting couldn't sit still and simply followed behind. Seeing this, the others looked at each other and walked towards the study one after another. As soon as they got closer, they heard Liu Wei's voice. You have to draw so many, just you and Uncle Jiyu? It's only 3 days. Can you make it in time? Jiyu Yundong sighed. I had no choice. I had never thought of advertising it like this. There was no need to draw these flyers. Who knew that I would be targeted by despicable people when I opened a shop? I could only make it bigger so that others would not think that our family is easy to bully. As she spoke, she secretly gave Liu Wei a thumbs up when she saw the students coming over. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 659, Encountering a problem. Liu Wei's carriage soon arrived at the Jiyu family's main entrance. Indeed, there were more than 20 people outside the Jiyu family's courtyard gate. They were all men of different ages and looked like they were really looking for trouble. Liu Wei hurriedly got down from the carriage, stretched out his hand, and shouted, Hey, what are you doing? Are you surrounding someone else's house and looking for trouble? A group of people was standing at the door to confirm if this was Jiyu Dajiang's house. Just as they were about to knock on the door, they suddenly heard a voice behind them. They were so frightened that they trembled and looked back in unison. Liu Wei had already rushed forward and squeezed through them to stand in front of the Jiyu family's door. He stretched out his hand to block the door. Who are you? What do you want to do? Who are you, brother? The one who spoke was Zhou Guang. He couldn't help but frown when he saw how protective Liu Wei was. This group of people were the students of the Tianhai Academy. There were more than 20 of them in total. It was just that today was a break and they were not wearing the student uniform, so they looked like people who had come to find trouble. The leader was Qi Ting. When he saw Liu Wei acting like a master, he couldn't help but size him up. Liu Wei raised his chin slightly. What are you doing? I'm with the Jiyu family. Who are you? Tell me your names. If you're here to cause trouble, you have to. Ouch. Before he could finish speaking, the courtyard door at the back was opened. Liu Wei, who was originally leaning against the courtyard door, lost his balance and fell straight back. Qi Ting's eyes were sharp. He immediately saw the little Jiyu Yunker standing behind Liu Wei. Seeing that Liu Wei was about to crush her, his expression immediately changed. He rushed forward and pushed Liu Wei away. He picked up Jiyu Yunker, whose eyes were wide open. Liu Wei didn't fall back after being pushed like this. Instead, he staggered and hit the door at the side. There was a bang on his head, and Lu Sheng, who was reaching out to help him steady himself, was so frightened that his body trembled. Liu Wei was supported and finally managed to stabilize himself. He immediately wanted to curse. F***ck, F***ck, it was in the same spot as the carriage just now. It hurt so much. He immediately stood up and glared at Qi Ting. You're courting death. Qi Ting raised his eyebrows and said expressionlessly, if I hadn't pushed you just now, you would have fallen to the ground. At that time, your head would have been split into 2. Liu Wei, he couldn't help but shiver. When Jiyu Yundong and Jiyu Dajiang heard the sound outside, they immediately came out to take a look. At first glance, she saw Liu Wei. Why are you here? Liu Wei heaved a sigh of relief and steadied himself. He looked at her and said, You still have the cheek to ask me. You came to the prefectural city to open a shop, but you didn't tell me. You don't treat me as a friend, right? Jiyu Yundong turned her head decisively and looked at Qi Ting, who was still carrying Jiyu Yunker. Why are you here? Liu Wei, break ties, break ties. Qi Ting put down the little girl, coughed lightly, and said, I just came to take a look. We also came to take a look. Voices suddenly came from the door. Jiyu Yundong was shocked. She looked over and realized that there were more than 20 students standing outside the courtyard. A few of them looked especially familiar. Jiyu Dajiang hurriedly walked over and warmly welcomed all his classmates in. Liu Wei felt like he had been dealt a critical blow. He looked at Jiyu Yundong bitterly. Jiyu Yundong could not ignore it even if she wanted to. She could only turn her head and sigh. It's good that you're here. I just encountered a difficult problem. What problem? Liu Wei instantly perked up. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 662, Jiyu Yundong's treatment today is supposed to be a break. It's nothing serious, someone said. Besides, we're classmates with your father. He helped us last time. It's only right for us to help him this time. Jiyu Yundong lowered her eyes. After a while, she looked up. Since you've said so, it's hard to reject your kindness. Thank you for your help. Then, she decisively took out a large stack of paper from the drawer, as well as more than 20 pens, and placed them neatly on the table. There aren't enough tables here. I've already gotten someone to borrow them. When the time comes, everyone, make do. Everyone was speechless. Is this how you thank us? Indeed, not long after, Shuerong had already instructed someone to bring over a few large desks. In the study, in the central room, even in the dining hall. The desks were set up. There were many scholars living nearby, so it was easy to borrow desks. Even if there was no desk, there were big round tables. Even if some people were unwilling, when they heard that the 20-odd people who came to the Jiyu family today were all students from the Tianhai Academy, they immediately helped move the tables without a word. It wasn't until they were all set up that the 20 or so students reacted. It seemed like they had been tricked. Especially the few people who followed Qi Ting. They had seen how powerful Miss Jiyu was last time and should have known her personality long ago. With her intelligence, what big problem could make her frown? She had set up a trap for them. Jiyu Yundong arranged seats for them and immediately relaxed. She clapped her hands and whispered to Liu Wei, "Thank you. Hihi, I did well, didn't I?" Liu Wei was very pleased with himself. Then, he felt that something was wrong. Liuan, who was standing not far away, sighed. "Young master, did you forget that you came to settle scores with Miss Jiyu? Previously, when you saw Aunt Ku, you swore that you'd settle the scores. Why didn't you count the scores and help her for nothing?" Because there were so many people in the family, Jiyu Yundong did not ask them for help for nothing. After all, they were all her father's classmates, so she had to build a good relationship with them. Therefore, she personally went to the market to pick fresh fruits and vegetables and returned with chicken, duck, and fish. As soon as she entered, she prepared a few plates of fruits and asked Shuerong to send them over. She even poured white sugar water for them and even made a bowl of double skim milk for each of them. These were foods that the children highly recommended. Seeing the white and tender double skim milk, these students were stunned. They had never eaten it before. What was this? Even Liu Wei had never eaten it before, but it was obvious that it was good stuff. Didn't they see that Yunke was already digging and eating with a spoon? When the smooth and tender thing entered their mouths, everyone could not help but widen their eyes. Delicious. Zhou Guang could not help but ask, "Miss Jiyu, could it be that this will be sold in the shop?" Jiyu Yundong shook his head. "This is not for sale. It's not easy to keep. Our shop sells things that can be preserved for a period of time." Zhou Guang's eyes lit up. Then, before he could finish speaking, Liu Wei immediately interrupted him loudly, "Sell me the recipe, sell me the recipe. I'll sell it in Jinxiu restaurant." Zhou Guang turned to look at him angrily. This was too unethical. He was the one who thought of it first. Jiyu Yundong laughed. "All right, I'll tell you how to make it later." Liu Wei immediately became happy. His father even said that he was brainless. Just wait. When he got this recipe and sold it in the restaurant later, it would definitely become very popular and his business would rise to another level. The other students couldn't wait to eat. They were all students and didn't really care about doing business. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 662, Jiyu Yundong's treatment today is supposed to be a break. It's nothing serious, someone said. Besides, we're classmates with your father. He helped us last time. It's only right for us to help him this time. Jiyu Yundong lowered her eyes. After a while, she looked up. Since you've said so, It's hard to reject your kindness. Thank you for your help. Then, she decisively took out a large stack of paper from the drawer, as well as more than 20 pens, and placed them neatly on the table. There aren't enough tables here. I've already gotten someone to borrow them. When the time comes, everyone, make do. Everyone was speechless. Is this how you thank us? Indeed, not long after, Shuirong had already instructed someone to bring over a few large desks. In the study, in the central room, even in the dining hall. The desks were set up. There were many scholars living nearby, so it was easy to borrow desks. Even if there was no desk, there were big round tables. Even if some people were unwilling, when they heard that the 20-odd people who came to the Zhou family today were all students from the Tianhai Academy, they immediately helped move the tables without a word. It wasn't until they were all set up that the 20 or so students reacted. It seemed like they had been tricked. Especially the few people who followed Qi Ting. They had seen how powerful Miss Zhou was last time and should have known her personality long ago. With her intelligence, what big problem could make her frown? She had set up a trap for them. Yundong arranged seats for them and immediately relaxed. She clapped her hands and whispered to Liu Wei, "Thank you. Hihi, I did well, didn't I?" Liu Wei was very pleased with himself. Then, he felt that something was wrong. Liuan, who was standing not far away, sighed. "Young master, did you forget that you came to settle scores with Miss Zhou? Previously, when you saw Aunt Ku, you swore that you'd settle the scores. Why didn't you count the scores and help her for nothing?" Because there were so many people in the family, Yundong did not ask them for help for nothing. After all, they were all her father's classmates, so she had to build a good relationship with them. Therefore, she personally went to the market to pick fresh fruits and vegetables and returned with chicken, duck, and fish. As soon as she entered, she prepared a few plates of fruits and asked Shuirong to send them over. She even poured white sugar water for them and even made a bowl of double skim milk for each of them. These were foods that the children highly recommended. Seeing the white and tender double skim milk, these students were stunned. They had never eaten it before. What was this? Even Liu Wei had never eaten it before, but it was obvious that it was good stuff. Didn't they see that Yunke was already digging and eating with a spoon? When the smooth and tender thing entered their mouths, everyone could not help but widen their eyes. Delicious. Zhou Guang could not help but ask, "Miss Zhou, could it be that this will be sold in the shop?" Yundong shook his head. "This is not for sale. It's not easy to keep. Our shop sells things that can be preserved for a period of time." Zhou Guang's eyes lit up. Then, before he could finish speaking, Liu Wei immediately interrupted him loudly, "Sell me the recipe, sell me the recipe. I'll sell it in Jinxiu restaurant." Zhou Guang turned to look at him angrily. This was too unethical. He was the one who thought of it first. Yundong laughed. "All right, I'll tell you how to make it later." Liu Wei immediately became happy. His father even said that he was brainless. Just wait. When he got this recipe and sold it in the restaurant later, it would definitely become very popular and his business would rise to another level. The other students couldn't wait to eat. They were all students and didn't really care about doing business. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 664, Liu Wei's marriage. Liu Wei was stunned and felt a little guilty. He took a small step back. "Why, you've been to the Liu family?" "Yeah, and then I heard something." Liu Wei turned around and left. "I still have something to do. I'll take my leave first." However, just as he turned around, he was pulled back by Shao Qingyuan. Yundong was curious. "What did you hear?" She really thought that Liu Wei had rushed over in such a rage because they had not told him about coming to the prefectural city. So it wasn't. Shao Qingyuan glanced at Liu Wei and said, "Old Master Liu was arranging a wife for Liu Wei. He was unwilling, so he fled to the prefectural city." Yundong was stunned and looked at Liu Wei in surprise. Liu Wei was 18 years old this year, 2 years younger than Shao Qingyuan. Usually, in this era, 15 or 16-year-olds should get married. Didn't you see that Dao Xing and Peng Zhongfei, who were about the same age as him, already had many wives and concubines? Liu Wei's family background was good, and it wasn't like he couldn't afford a wife. His situation was also different from Xiao Qingyuan's, so why was he unwilling? Could it be that he liked men? Yundong's imagination started to run wild. He looked at Liu Wei warily. This guy liked to stick to Xiao Qingyuan. Could it be that he had other thoughts? Liu Wei didn't notice the look in her eyes. He just said with a long face, "You don't understand my pain at all." "What pain?" "My father thinks that I'm too jumpy and unruly, so he wants to find a fierce woman to control me." Liu Wei simply wanted to die. "Do you think he's my biological father? How can he harm his son like this? Is there anyone like him?" Yundong blinked. Well, Old Master Liu's idea was indeed very strange. However, what she did not know was that she was the one who gave Old Master Liu such a thought. Liu Wei was especially mischievous when he was young. When he grew up, he didn't get any better. A few years ago, when he reached the age of marriage, his family had arranged many marriages for him. In the end, he sabotaged them all. Old Master Liu was so angry that he did not want to care about his son. Later, when he met Jiu Yundong, he watched helplessly as his son obediently listened to Jiu Yundong. He suddenly had a plan and felt that he had finally found a woman who could subdue his son. At that time, Old Master Liu even wanted Liu Wei to marry Jiu Yundong. Unfortunately, she had Xiao Qingyuan by her side, and he was watching her too closely. So he could only look for other people, but there were too few girls like Jiu Yundong. Those who were worthy of his family background were too dignified and not fierce enough. For those who were fierce enough, their family background was not good enough. Jiu Yundong was poor at first, but she was capable. If she had a strong temper and was not capable and did not have a family background, Old Master Liu would still feel that he had wronged his son. Hence, after half a year, he finally found one. However, his son didn't cooperate and actually ran away. Old Master Liu was so angry that he almost fell sick. Jiu Yundong was enlightened after hearing this. She sympathized with Liu Wei. In ancient times, parents had always been in charge of marriage. For someone like Liu Wei, it was already good enough that his father didn't use him for business alliance. In short, I'll hide in the prefectural city for now. I'll return after this storm passes. Besides, aren't you opening in a few days? I'll help you. After saying that, Liu Wei quickly threw this matter to the back of his mind and went to work happily. Liuan watched from the beginning to the end and complained in his heart, "Young master, didn't you say that you would settle scores with them? Can you succeed once? This is too tragic. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 664, Liu Wei's marriage. Liu Wei was stunned and felt a little guilty. He took a small step back. "Why, you've been to the Liu family?" "Yeah, and then I heard something." Liu Wei turned around and left. "I still have something to do. I'll take my leave first." However, just as he turned around, he was pulled back by Xiao Qingyuan. Jiu Yundong was curious. "What did you hear?" She really thought that Liu Wei had rushed over in such a rage because they had not told him about coming to the prefectural city. So it wasn't. Xiao Qingyuan glanced at Liu Wei and said, "Old Master Liu was arranging a wife for Liu Wei. He was unwilling, so he fled to the prefectural city." Jiu Yundong was stunned and looked at Liu Wei in surprise. Liu Wei was 18 years old this year, 2 years younger than Xiao Qingyuan. Usually, in this era, 15 or 16-year-olds should get married. Didn't you see that Dao Xing and Peng Zhongfei, who were about the same age as him, already had many wives and concubines? Liu Wei's family background was good, and it wasn't like he couldn't afford a wife. His situation was also different from Xiao Qingyuan's, so why was he unwilling? Could it be that he liked men? Jiu Yundong's imagination started to run wild. He looked at Liu Wei warily. This guy liked to stick to Xiao Qingyuan. Could it be that he had other thoughts? Liu Wei didn't notice the look in her eyes. He just said with a long face, "You don't understand my pain at all." "What pain?" My father thinks that I'm too jumpy and unruly, so he wants to find a fierce woman to control me. Liu Wei simply wanted to die. Do you think he's my biological father? How can he harm his son like this? Is there anyone like him? Jiyu Yundong blinked. Well, old Master Liu's idea was indeed very strange. However, what she did not know was that she was the one who gave old Master Liu such a thought. Liu Wei was especially mischievous when he was young. When he grew up, he didn't get any better. A few years ago, when he reached the age of marriage, his family had arranged many marriages for him. In the end, he sabotaged them all. Old Master Liu was so angry that he did not want to care about his son. Later, when he met Jiyu Yundong, he watched helplessly as his son obediently listened to Jiyu Yundong. He suddenly had a plan and felt that he had finally found a woman who could subdue his son. At that time, old Master Liu even wanted Liu Wei to marry Jiyu Yundong. Unfortunately, she had Xiao Qingyuan by her side, and he was watching her too closely. So he could only look for other people, but there were too few girls like Jiyu Yundong. Those who were worthy of his family background were too dignified and not fierce enough. For those who were fierce enough, their family background was not good enough. Jiyu Yundong was poor at first, but she was capable. If she had a strong temper and was not capable and did not have a family background, old Master Liu would still feel that he had wronged his son. Hence, after half a year, he finally found one. However, his son didn't cooperate and actually ran away. Old Master Liu was so angry that he almost fell sick. Jiyu Yundong was enlightened after hearing this. She sympathized with Liu Wei. In ancient times, parents had always been in charge of marriage. For someone like Liu Wei, it was already good enough that his father didn't use him for business alliance. In short, I'll hide in the prefectural city for now. I'll return after this storm passes. Besides, aren't you opening in a few days? I'll help you. After saying that, Liu Wei quickly threw this matter to the back of his mind and went to work happily. Liuan watched from the beginning to the end and complained in his heart, "Young master, didn't you say that you would settle scores with them? Can you succeed once? This is too tragic. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 666, opening on the 8th day of the 9th month, the weather was clear. It was suitable to marry, enter the house, and open for business. Early in the morning, the Jiyu family tidied themselves up in high spirits. Other than Jiyu Dajiang, who was still going to the academy, everyone else went to Gus' shop on Dahui Road. At the same time, many people in the city rubbed their palms together and prepared. The flyers clearly stated that if they spent a tael of silver, they could receive a bag of dried fruits for free. 1 tael of silver was not a lot to many people in the prefectural city. Even if they did not have it, some smart people wanted to pool it together with others. If each of them bought a little, they would be able to get a bag of dried fruits. Among them was Madame Sun, the neighbor of the Su family. Madame Sun also happened to receive a flyer 2 days ago. After getting someone to help read the words on it, she was immediately interested. She had long heard about this canned food. She heard that it was very delicious. The supply in Jinxiu restaurant was not enough, and the price was especially expensive. It was not easy to buy. Madame Sun did not have the connections to buy it with money, but there were canned food sold in other shops. It was just not authentic and was cheap. She had bought it and eaten it. The taste was simply indescribable. It had a strange taste. When she heard that the Jiyu family's shop was selling the canned food from Jinxiu restaurant, she had an idea. Coincidentally, her son had given her his salary a few days ago. She was not very tight on money. Therefore, early this morning, she put on her new clothes and went out to look for the other 2 neighbors. Unexpectedly, the moment she opened the courtyard door, the Su family next door also opened. Su Changshan was also wearing brand new clothes and was standing at the door talking to Mother Su. "Mother, I might be back late tonight. You and little sister can eat first. You don't have to wait for me." Mother Su nodded. "I know. Hurry up and go. Don't delay your work." Madame Sun giggled when she heard that. "Yo, you're going to work in a small shop, And you even specially made new clothes. Look at how capable you are. Mother Su and Su Changshun ignored her. Madam Sun snorted and left. Only then did Su Changshun say, Mother, when I earn money, we'll buy a bigger courtyard and not be neighbors with her. All right, Mother will wait. Mother Su wiped the corners of her eyes and said with relief. Not only did she not want to be neighbors with Madam Sun, but she also did not want to be neighbors with those who had mocked her son and avoided her family like snakes and scorpions. Su Changshun left quickly. Gus was about to open for business today. He was completely relieved. When he arrived at the shop, Jiyu Yundong and the others had just arrived. When they saw Su Changshun, they nodded slightly. Come in. The shelves in the shop were already filled with things. There were canned white sugar fruits, dried fruits, and jam from the fruit shop. There were also all kinds of exquisite sweets. There was a dazzling array of things. As soon as Su Changshun entered, he rolled up his sleeves and got busy. Unexpectedly, Jiyu Yundong waved her hand. There's no hurry. Come with me. On the first day, besides Zheng Gang, Su Changshun, and Ah Shu, people including Ah Zhu, Chen Jinbao, Tong Ping, Shui Rong, Lu Sheng, and even Madame Niu, Lu Hongxiu, and Tong Shuidao had to help receive the guests. Feng Daning and the others had wanted to help, but they were not hired workers. Moreover, she had enough manpower, so Jiyu Yundong did not agree. She only said that they should rest in the backyard. If anyone asked about the renovation of the shop, she would bring them over. They followed Jiyu Yundong into the backyard and saw her get someone to bring out a large box from a room. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible.